Do you have your mental highlight?
Yeah, I got last one. I'll go check with.
Yeah.
No, I haven't heard that. Let me call him.
I don't know what it's going to be.
We're calling Councilman Lewis.
Call meeting to order. Charlie, can you roll call?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, thank you. District 1, Councilman Rios is absent. District 2, Councilman Pastor is excused. District 3, Councilman Latham.
Present.
District 4, Councilman Vice Mayor Stapleton.
Here, thank you.
District 5, Councilman Gonzalez.
Here.
District 6, Councilman Shipley.
Here.
Mayor Gameros.
Here.
We have a quorum, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Shelby. Can you lead us in the invocation?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dear gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you for this day, for this season of Christmas. We thank you for the love that you gave this world in your Son, Jesus Christ. We pray that you would bless this meeting and the lives represented here tonight, Lord. We pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Oriana. Yes, Mr. Mayor.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
First on the agenda, we have the seating of the 2023-2024 Globe City Council. They'll be taking their loyalty oath. They'll be administered by our judge. So we have Councilman Stapleton, Latham, Shipley, and Gonzalez that'll do down in the front.
How's everybody tonight? Honorable Mayor, Honorable Council, it's my honor and my pleasure to stand before you to administer this oath this evening. We're going to do the oath in unison. If I could ask you each to raise your right hand, please, and repeat after me. I, and state your full names. Thank you. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and defend them against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of Globe City Council member according to the best of my ability. So help me God. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you, Derek.
Congratulations.
I also want to congratulate the re-elected four council members for the next 4 years. The next on the agenda is the appointment of vice mayor and confirmation by council. At this point, I wish to, I have 2 more years on my second term, and I would continue to leave that position to my current vice mayor, Mike Stapleton, for the next 2 years. Council.
Do you need a motion?
No, we don't need a motion.
Just a confirmation by council. So.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
And seating the council, I'm not going to make any movement at this point. I'll leave it like it is for the next 2 years. And just appreciate all the hard work that this council does, along with our staff at this council. It's really been the work that's done goes beyond what the normal duties are, just attending meetings. There's a lot that goes on, and I really appreciate everything that you do. Go to summary of current events, and we'll start, Jesse, with you.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank everybody who helped with the light parade, make that happen. It was awesome again, once again this year, as well as the Read On Express that went downtown. If you haven't gone to one of them, try to make it to one of them. They're amazing. I also attended the police department annual awards banquet. They hadn't been able to do it for like 4 years now, so it was a long time coming. And it opened and enlightened me. It's out of sight, out of mind. I understand police, when they put the badge on, they're with their lives right down the line, but to hear the awards and how they went out, what they did for those awards, it was eye-opening. So thank you, Chief, for that. I appreciate it. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Jesse. Mike?
I just kind of have a duplicate, actually. The light parade again was a huge success. I want to thank everybody that put that on. My kids and grandkids came up to see it from the Valley, and they were totally impressed. We already have plans for next year to come up and see it. It was a blast. So I just want to thank everybody that was involved. And then same thing with PD. I wasn't able to make that banquet, so I apologize. And next time I will be there for sure. So thank you. And then lastly, I just want to, this is our last meeting of the year. So I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a very safe and Happy New Year. And we'll see you next year. That's all I have, man.
Thank you, Mike. Mariano?
I want to thank all the emergency response agencies who have been dealing with several fires that have occurred in the region. And once again, they pulled together, inserted themselves quickly, and did everything that was necessary in these fires. I remind you that winter fires in the wintertime can be very deadly and can be very swift. So be careful out there with your heaters and your heating equipment, make sure that they have been maintained well. And I do attend the Christmas parade. It was a lot of fun and a lot of hard work, and I want to thank all the people of the Little Downtown Association, especially for their efforts. And by the way, if you're interested in helping next year, get in touch with Molly Cornwell. She'd love to have you. There's always a need for more volunteers here in the region, and I really had a wonderful time. And Chief had a great presentation of awards to his staff. I was impressed that he actually knew everyone's names. It was nice. But it does show the quality of work that is being done by our fire department, and the cooperation with the other agencies in the area was evident. There were a lot of attendees from other agencies, and I was really pleased to see that. That means we're working well in the sandbox. Keep at it, Chief. I really appreciate your work. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Fernando?
Just a couple things. I never built a float before, ever. Not in high school. And I got a call when they were trying to get this float moved, and so I got to go out and help build the floats. And it's actually going to be in the Fiesta Bowl, and so they're in the process of getting it moved. But it was a lot of fun, a lot of work, and it was neat to see everybody pitch in and make that thing happen. When I left, it was looking pretty scruffy, and when I watched it come down the street, I was like, wow, that was amazing. So hopefully they have a good showing at the Fiesta Bowl. I'm sorry I missed the dinner, but that's it, man. Thank you.
Thank you, Fernando. Yeah, I too had the opportunity to help out with the Fiesta Bowl Parade. It's honoring Rose Mofford and their road to the Capitol and Globe. So it's an amazing float. They had a designer named Chris that flew in from Chicago and was here for 6 days designing that. There's a lot of lumber on that float, and he came in with his iPad and everything marked off how it's going to come together. So it was great. You know, I want to thank also Ariela Flores and Regina Ortega, who have put massive amount of hours on that working float. There's a lot of people that stopped in and out to help out, but they have been there almost every day. A lot of hours they put into that, and it's an amazing float. So please, if you get a chance, go down and watch it in the Fiesta Bowl Parade. This Thursday, the 15th, from 6 to 8, there's going to be a Globe Miami Chamber of Commerce mixer, and that's going to be at the Gore Valley Center for the Arts, again 6 to 8. And I think you buy tickets probably there. Or if you do, there's no tickets. It's free. Okay. And just want to echo what Mike said. I want to wish everybody Merry Christmas and Happy New Year and safe holidays. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, we're getting ready for the Christmas, for the celebration, and then ready to hit the ground running come January. Big kudos to everybody who helped out with the light parade, especially all public works closing on the streets, and I think every cop that works for us was on a corner, and so big turnout, big credit, and so we were very excited about that. It was a good turn, and sadly we got rained out on the light festival, but I know we're going to replan that and be bigger and better than ever. So it was unfortunate. So at least it rained hard. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council.
Thank you. We got departmental highlights. What do you got first?
Yeah. I'm going to go in reverse order. Well, that's not really an order. It's just the order of my sheet. That's the only thing reversed. Just a little bit of a late acknowledgement for the admin department. The Active Adult Center helped sponsor the Rotary Turkey Dinner, our Thanksgiving festival there, and they've been doing that like the 5th year. And they're always so helpful, and Rotary really helpful, but it really enjoys that. And it shows a meeting place that we need to keep looking at, because it is available. For the police, I also attended the awards banquet. Good to see the acknowledgement and 4 years of what they've accomplished, and just the professionalism and the things that they face and come out on top. Fire, I just got a note from Gary. Just in the past 3 weeks, they've been busy 132 calls for service, 6 fires, 6 collisions. They treated 71 patients, and then that fire in Central Heights with a pretty good injury there. And Public Works, we have if you saw it over there across from Jack in the Box, the emergency sewer line on US 60, the 60-foot line replacement, also fixed up some sidewalks while they're in there, doing the work. And then the last one for Development Services Department, we had a resident, Jim McDonald, sent a really wonderful letter complimenting Development Services Tech Mary Helen Sanchez on professionalism and helping assist him through the permitting process. So there's just a couple little bits of all the things that our departments do, and we recognize we can't cover everything, but just trying to get you a couple highlights each week. Mr. Mayor, members of council, thank you.
Thank you. Before I go to community call, I want to acknowledge we have a newly appointed Mayor Angel Medina from Miami in the audience.
Thank you, Mayor.
We'll go first community call to the public. Do we have any? I have no.
Nothing online, Mr. Mayor.
Nothing online. Anybody willing to speak to the? Next, we have special presentation, ceremonial matters. We have introduction of Eric Bowman, newly hired administrative services manager.
Okay. So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, I'd like to introduce you to Eric Bowman, our administrative services manager. It is a position that's helping to fill the gap between the finance and then the procurement, and a lot of this, the non-accounting finance stuff that we have to do. I don't think we realized how much there was for Eric to do. It's like, who did this before? But Eric is a product of our Citizens Academy class number 2.
Yes.
Yes. And so he loved the academy so much he wanted to join the company. So we had an opening. He applied. He didn't get the first position he applied for, but everybody told me so many wonderful things about him. They said, you got to talk to this guy. You got to get him. So we did a little background and talked to Eric and did some meetings and came up with this position, and he applied, was successful. And so then he has been just, taking care of business, very helpful, very professional. And formerly, what was your title with San Carlos, the Apache College? Did you have a title?
Kind of like what I'm doing here.
Okay, so yeah, so a little bit of everything under the sun on the financial side. So resident of Globe, and I'm gonna hush and let Eric tell you a little bit about himself, and let's welcome Eric.
Yeah, so I moved to Globe in 2017. I worked for the San Carlos Apache College as a contractor all the way up until I started here. And I enjoyed doing that, but I was serving a different community. And what I learned from being a part of the Citizens Academy is how rewarding it will be, and is, as I'm learning right now, to serve your own community that you actually live in. I find that it's a very good feeling when I'm a part of it. It's a great group of people. Everybody I've met from every department has been amazing. I really love it.
Next, we have introduction of Luann Rickett, newly hired finance departmental accountant.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. It's a great pleasure to introduce you to Luann Rickett. She is our new accountant in the finance department. It's been tough times in the finance department, so it's really been fantastic. We were able to look far and wide and find Luann.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. My name's Luann Rickett, and I am a third generation native Globe born here. I'm fourth generation Arizona. So I have a lot of strong ties to the community. I was born and raised here, left and went to the valley, worked down there mostly in industrial type of jobs, industrial cleaning equipment, wastewater treatment, manufacturer. While I was working, I ended up going back to school, got my master's degree in business administration. And we have a lot of ties here. I have a house here, so we were spending a lot of time up here. And we just have decided that it was time to come back home. And now I have 2.5 hours extra a day because I don't have to drive for an hour and 15 minutes each way. And it's just a much more peaceful life here. And so my husband and I packed it. Well, I want to thank those that made the decision to hire me. And we've been moving for a month. We finally got everything up here. Now we got to figure out where to put it all, except for the maze going through our house. But I really am excited to be working for the city and to be here. It's a chance to give back and to work with people in the community. And I think one of the biggest things that really affected me is we have some property up here, right on Pinto Creek. And during the fire, we got burned, and then it got cleansed with the flood because the creek runs right through it. So, but just the way the community had to pull together, the way everybody had to work, all of the stuff that happened, and you don't find that kind of community in a big city. And people were very grateful in helping us out, and it was just time to come back and be a part of something bigger than that big city. So anyway, thank you. I look forward to working with everybody, and just appreciate it. Thank you.
Welcome, man. Much help needed with carrying it for so long by ourselves. Next, we have employee recognition of 5 years of service with the City of Globe, Jessica Cruz, Public Works Operations Specialist.
Mayor, members of council, we're here tonight to recognize one of our city-owned. Jessica was born and raised in Globe. She graduated from Globe High School in '99. She went on to get her bachelor's degree in administration of justice at the University of Hawaii Hilo. So, and she worked for both the Hilo County and Pinal County Attorney's Office as senior legal secretary. She also was a social worker for the state of Arizona, which really helped her get along here. She's married, has 3 kids, and 3 children, so and enjoys spending a lot of time with her family. So a lot of people, for some reason, call Jessica the Jerry Whisperer. I've never heard Jessica whisper before. Yeah. It's always been a volume way up here, so I don't know why they call it. It just confuses me. So Jessica, since she's been here, she started as my administrative assistant, and she's really been our go-to person since then. It's not only in public works and engineering, but in other departments. I know that she's worked with Shelley, she's worked with finance, she's worked with the water department, she's worked with a lot of people. Basically, we just couldn't find a home for her, so we passed her around quite a bit. So she's also been a key role that has affected just about every department in town. She's been on every project, fire department, the police department. She's made sure that the trains ran on time and the whistles all blew. And I think every department, including Linda's department, we all we've all depended on Jessica. Hey, Rick, you want to come up here? So something I really did screw up the last time I was up here, and I talked about Connie's Bridge, is I was thanking everybody that helped, and probably the one person that helped the most was Jessica, and I forgot her. So Rick and I got together. Go ahead, Rick.
Okay, thank you, Jerry. I'll make this brief, Mayor and Council. Thank you. Jessica does all those other things, but she also has to work for the consulting companies as well. And it's a lot of work, anything from setting up meetings to sending out emails. And I'm always bugging her, and she's always responsive. You know, we get this email out. We got to get this done. We got to get the project moving. And I'm telling you, we couldn't have done it without her. She does amazing things, and we appreciate her. And to show that appreciation, Jerry and I have put together this little plaque that she can keep in her office and always remember us years from now when she's gone. I know she knows that we appreciate her, but I want you all to know that we appreciate her equally as well. So this says, with our greatest appreciation, we hereby honor Jessica Renee Cruz in recognition for your passion and commitment from Rick and Jerry Engineering Department. Thank you.
So, in addition to a lot that she does for the for Connie's Bridge in particular, the pool project, we could never move forward without her in the pool because I don't have a whole lot of hair left. So when I got ready to pull it all out, Jessica was there to say, "Calm down, just move forward, we'll get it done." So she's that type of person. She's also the person who, when you look at these agenda items, and I have a lot of agenda items a lot of time, and you're saying, "Oh, Jerry did a good job." Jessica did a good job. Jessica did a good job, and Jerry just approves it and sends it on. So, you don't see that, but when we first started out, we struggled a little bit with the agenda items, but as we got going, she kind of pushed me back and took over. So, we tease that, it's the cruise control. So, and she does that, and we love it. So, she's also been involved in our grant team and keeps track of all of our projects. We have 2 whiteboards with 40-some projects on them. If you've been in my office, it's kind of a whirlwind, and Jessica tracks it. She updates it daily. She does it all. And I admit I take advantage of her need to be involved in everything. So armed with her pride, dedication, and filled with the knowing the project, knowing the importance of her task and projects are to the city, she works hard to accomplish her goals, even if this involves long hours to meet deadlines and expectations, and always finishes those with a smile. She has a great sense of humor. I mean, she laughs at my jokes. So, I mean, nothing wrong with that. Even my wife says she works for me, that's why she laughs. But in over 40 years of doing this type of work, she's one of the best employees and one of the most loyal employees that I've ever had. She's a true joy and a great member of the team. And it's my pride to present this recognition to you tonight. I'll let you talk.
I don't talk a lot, but they'll tell you that's fine. I just wanted to say thank you, and I appreciate working for the city. I appreciate everything that the city has done for me in the past. A lot of you guys know, and I look forward to continuing to serve you guys with a smile.
Oh, you didn't mention the best boss.
No. But honestly, I really enjoy working here, and he makes it fun for me. And there's a lot of other people in many other departments that make it a lot of fun and worthwhile coming here. I don't dread coming in like I did in past jobs, so I appreciate that, and I look forward to staying as long as I possibly can. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
One here.
what's, oh, Mr. Mayor, members of council, one quick comment. Jessica has been very pivotal in helping us through the transition in finance. She's taken time away from Public Works to come out and help carry and cover a lot of bases that have been very important. So thank you from the finance department in the city.
Thank you.
Your trophy.
It's better than my raise.
So I got you.
So just so you guys know, the joke that we have in my office is Jerry's given me 3 raises. I got a 1-step stool and a 2-step ladder.
What do you want?
Right? I can reach the top of the white. Thank you very much.
Item D, Chief, were you tabling item D? I don't see that recipient here. Okay, so we'll be tabling item D.
Yes.
We'll go to the consent calendar. Matters listed on the consent calendar considered to be routine and be enacted by one motion and one vote. Public hearing items are designated with an asterisk. Prior to consideration of the consent agenda, the mayor will ask whether any member of the public wishes to remove a public hearing item for separate consideration. Members of the council and or staff may remove any item for separate consideration. To have item A, consideration of waiver of section 2-4-10A, prior discussion rule to allow action on the balance of the consent agenda. Accounts payable, $948,895.44. Consideration of approval of council minutes, November 22nd, 2022, meeting minutes, and consideration of agreements of purchases less than $25,000. Is there anybody from the public, the staff, or the council wishing to remove any of these items for separate consideration?
Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion and second for approval of the consent agenda as read. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Any abstaining? Motion passed. New business, item A, discussion and consideration to approve the Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation of case number G-22-03, a request of a 27-foot tall freestanding sign in the excess of the 16-foot maximum height limitation pursuant to zoning code 14-13-20 J3B, located at 2398 East US Highway 60, Miami, assessor parcel number 206-05-004A, former ARCO AMPM, and they're requesting to waive section 2-4-10A prior discussion rule. We have Dana on the line?
You do. Thank you so much, Mayor and council members. Great to have this before you this evening. Thank you again. I will just run through a quick presentation. This item and the following item are very similar. And if you recall, we saw, to my knowledge, the first of these exercises, this particular section of our zoning code, portion of our zoning code, about 2 months ago, when you looked at the 1100 broad redevelopment monument. The difference here that I'll just kind of lay out front is that new sign intended to replace some 3 existing pole signs. Anyway, this request involves the following, but both existing signs that we received some requests. So there's the code that allows this avenue for business owners to request additional height. Basically, anything over 16 feet is legal non-conforming today if it exists. But we have this language that authorizes the council to look at and consider alternative signage that might be higher than that. P&Z had a very thorough discussion last week, and I'll touch on that as I get into detail. There's the sign location there, the old ARCO AMPM. That's been in prison for some time now, I think 2 or 3 years maybe. Anyway, has been purchased by a Marathon company, and they are reutilizing obviously the property, and they want to redo the signage. On the left is the existing signage. measures about 28 feet tall, and as you can see, there are two large sign cabinets. The Arco and the AMPM directly. Marathon doesn't need that. Really, obviously, those cabinets that are existing don't conform to their brand. So that presented an opportunity. They contacted me. They said, we want to use this sign, and this is what we're planning to do. So we have 16-foot maximum height. It's a legal non-conforming sign that exists. So, you would need to lower that sign. I said, well, we can come up with ways to utilize the existing cabinets potentially, but we'd really rather do this. And so, in my discussion with them as well, with PNC last week as well, we got some options here. Either we live with this existing sign, or could this be an avenue to get this particular sign closer to conformance, or at least reduce its area and scale closer to 16-foot max. Anyway, so you see, they're proposing to replace that cabinet. Take about 1 foot off that overall 28-foot sign. There's a view of it from the east. One thing we've identified when we have the opportunity to bring these signs forward to you, we can kind of have a discussion with the property owner on how our existing freestanding sign code requires some landscaping at the base and things like that with the 16-foot height max. But it doesn't offer that opportunity to consider, well, what other features could we possibly achieve when kind of repurposing or continuing to utilize such a sign. Planning and Zoning Commission had some concern, and we reviewed how do we look at these types of proposals, without setting a precedent, without becoming, oh, now we approved the 27-foot sign. So as I presented at the 1100 North Broad project, monument sign, we need to look at those elements. You have that code in place, but if you're going to exceed that, we obviously, as a city, want to have some criteria in place or measures to evaluate proposals that could be exceptional and could further the interest of the city or get in this situation closer to compliance with our zoning code. So anyway, the new construction, obviously not a precedent, so that is a new construction, brand new sign. They wanted an additional 1.5 feet above the 16 feet. And we looked at some criteria. Well, it's architecturally integrated with the site. That's fantastic. It's replacing 3 existing pole signs that were well over 20 feet along the city's frontage, right there in a critical location near the entrance to Broad Street in downtown. They're landscaping and providing landscaping that doesn't already exist at that location. So those are just some of the items that we look at. How to avoid setting a precedent. What criteria can we develop this policy to evaluate this? And this is the criteria that we came up with this, utilizing existing legal non-conforming sign when the property owner doesn't. But we need to make a change, and there is the opportunity to discuss alternatives. So with this particular sign, it'll be very similar, somewhat different next agenda item, but it's an existing non-conforming sign. The proposed modifications reduce the total area of the sign from 160 to 110 square feet. Right, so that's kind of better than the existing sign. What you could assume there. Fractionally reduce the sign height by a foot. It requires, as stipulated in the conditional approval and recommended conditional approval. Let's get that base landscape area re-landscaped and spruced up as well, along with the new sign, should the council wish to approve. So this gives us that for that landscaping as well. We can't just necessarily go out and ask property owners to landscape their planters throughout the community. So we can require to keep those weed free and clean, debris, but not reinstall landscaping and so forth, with exception of a situation like this. It's not visible from or in the vicinity of homes. We want to make sure that's one of the issues with having such a tall sign, that it's not this eyesore from our neighborhoods. It's also located in a high traffic volume stretch of the highway. That is more characteristic of, highway, major arterial oriented businesses like big box retail, and not within a more historic kind of a main street mixed use environment where increased signage and heights are less compatible. So as an example, that stretch of ash between Bill Street and to the curb, close to past East Globe School there, that area functions more historically like a main street, and is a smaller scale. You don't have that large box necessarily. The inline retail like we do, and there's a mixture of uses. There's houses in some situations along that stretch. So we recognize and are distinguishing, and the Planning and Zoning Commission is distinguishing the difference between those two areas of our highway. And then finally, the existing sign base could simply be rescanned, no approval other than building permit, and the existing height sign could remain. So is this a scenario working with, having these skin existing? So that's the evaluation that the Planning and Zoning Commission and staff is taking. So with that, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommends the council approve this because of that criteria that we just evaluated, and also including that condition of approval to provide the landscaping in the landscape median or planter and maintain it. With that, be happy to recommend be happy to respond to any questions you have, and this is not a public hearing or anything like that, so it's at council's will to take action this evening if you'd like. Thank you.
Any questions or comments?
He answered all my questions.
Yeah, it's like, it's probably nice to see something like that.
I noticed that you're asking for us to waive the prior session. I'm so excited.
Dana, do we know an opening date of this new business?
I haven't had that conversation.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, we do not have a date yet.
I know there's a lot of trucks in there, a lot of contractors do a lot of work for the past week or two.
Yeah. No, it's always good to see an inactive site come active.
So if it's appropriate, I feel like it's an improvement from the existing signage. It's good to see it get reopened, and I would move to approve case number G-22-03.
Second?
And waive the prior discussion.
Second.
Motion second for approval of item A. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Any opposing? Motion passed. Item B, discussion and consideration to approve the Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation of case number G-22-04, a request of a 19.7 foot tall freestanding sign in the excess of the 16-foot maximum height limitation pursuant to zoning code 14-13-20 J3B, located at 1497 East Ash Street, assessor parcel number 205-14-014B, Pizza Hut, and request to waive section 2-4-10A prior discussion.
Thank you again, Mayor, council members. Similarly, this is just a replacement of a sign that's been getting hit apparently. And it's you'll see that's in proper location, but similarly, it's a legal non-conforming sign. I think it's 20 feet right now, pushing 20 feet, and they're proposing to reduce that. But the primary impetus tonight, just to give you a heads up, we already approved the wall signage, revised wall signage. Piece that's going through a rebranding. And these will be their 2 wall signs that they will be installing soon. It was already approved within our codes. But this monument sign right here at this corner is the one that is proposed to be removed and relocated over at this location right here in the center of that median. That plan there. Again, the existing sign measures 20 feet. They're proposing about 19.7. My discussion, I said, we have to show some movement towards being a if you're going to go for council. Obviously, coming back to the same, without, possibly help the case. So we're at 19.7, slightly smaller area in sign, I believe. And I'll go back again, as you can see on that corner. Apparently trucks coming in, which is probably isn't a good entrance for trucks, semis particularly, to make that radius. So I guess it gets hit. And we're familiar with a lot of property, such as retaining wall in the rear, this site being hit. And so it is a tight area. And they do have some conflicts on occasion, and that sign one of the primary conflicts. So they're requesting just to replace that with that new branded sign, drop it in elevation by 3 or 4 inches, and staff did the same evaluation. Took a look, is this visible from neighboring properties as it's being moved? Obviously, it's not probably a large item, but from neighboring properties, it's not the largest sign. But it is not visible. We can see it looking around the surrounding neighborhoods down towards this property. As you know, the surrounding neighborhoods are generally higher and look over the top of Pizza Hut or Pizza Hut masks, that sign location from what we saw. And then you can also see the number of billboards in this background as well. So there's overall, in this section, I think this Best Western sign is really tall, just down the street from this location. With that, we applied the same similar criteria it's a slight reduction in the area, it's a slight reduction in the height. The landscape planner is stipulated to be improved and maintained in perpetuity as well, which I don't know what the current state is, but in looking at the aerials, it's not landscaped. However, their corners are landscaped and maintained well. So we have that condition of approval. It is not visible from homes for the farthest stretch that we can look. And then, and again, this is what we're starting to just rounding Ash, where it's getting into more of a highway oriented business type of activity, and down to some of our more industrious type of commercial uses, lumberyard, these are kind of outdoor, like truck storage uses, as well as some of our hotels too. So we want to maintain some obviously appeal in the stretch. But again, it's not in that historic main street, so I think that's an important criteria to distinguish as you look at these cases. The existing tax cases could again simply be reskinned. Obviously, they continue to have the same problems with property damage and so forth. So with that, the Planning and Zoning Commission also recommends council motion to approve this request with the conditions to provide landscaping as it's written in the staff report. Be happy to respond to any questions.
Any questions or comments?
Just one question. Is there any minimum distance from the roadway to where the sign can be located? From the roadway?
Howard Zone.
Yeah, well, I was
asking to go up here.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, but it's just.
Requires to be 5 feet behind that property, which
We'll circle back.
and they're showing it to be 7 feet. So it's within the curbing a little more, so closer to the property line, within the allowed setback, and it's more protected obviously by curbing.
Yeah, we do.
and
Now, if you want to comment, you can come up.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
Well, the issue on the mic here.
Yeah.
That is recorded.
So
Yeah, it's recorded.
No, it was just a simple question, if there is any minimum distance between the edge of the right of way to where you can locate the sign, but apparently they have that taken care of into consideration, and policy we can just kind of, talk about it later. So I'm good.
Thank you.
And it can't be obviously disrupting the site plan. This particular sign is above 8 feet, so it could actually probably be within the site. Anyway.
No other questions or comments? Mayor, I move a motion to approve case number G-22-04 and other questions.
Second.
Got a motion second to approve item B. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed, nay? Any abstaining? Motion passed. Item C, consideration to approve the Historic Preservation Advisory Commission's recommendation of approval of proposed wall signage for Power Elite Dance Academy located at 474 North Cross Street and request to waive section 2-4-10A prior discussion of. Dan.
Excellent, Mayor, council members. This is not something recommended to you by Planning and Zoning Commission, but through the Historic Preservation Advisory Commission, HPAC, because it's in our historic downtown district, overlay district. And what has been proposed, and working with the applicant as well as the property owner and review with the HPAC, we look at some consistent alternative, consistent historic painting painting signs on buildings. And over time, they become patina, they have somewhere, and actually get more attractive and provide more historical character. So that said, obviously, when you first paint those, they're very tight, and over time, again, with the wear, they slowly start to have that vintage look to them, and they're called ghost signs. So anyway, again, in working with the applicant and the property owner, one of the Historic Preservation Advisory Commission recommended this direction in agreement with the property owner, and it's stipulated to just have staff once the final concept is finalized by the applicant property. We forward that what that ultimate look would be to the HPAC, because it's for an informal review. So we gave them you have a couple of options shown in your packet. So there's a version, a couple different ways to treat it. There's some flexibility, but generally we know it needs to look like this. So with that, the Historic Preservation Advisory Commission recommends approval with that condition that they just get one last look once it's final, once the design is finalized by the property owner. Be happy to respond to any questions.
Questions, comments? Go ahead, Justin.
Dan, what was the original plan that she come up with, the property owner?
It was, I'm not sure that it was all the property owner's concept. I spoke with her. This came up very quickly prior to the HPAC's meeting, and I spoke with her last Wednesday morning, just before HPAC met, and we just discussed. So originally, kind of one of the initial quick concepts was to list Power Elite Dance Studio along the side of the wall there. Just lettering, if you would, and an arrow at the bottom. So it's long and, I've got an image I can show you if you're looking on the site. I did do additional. I get to it real quick. But anyway, I'll bring that up. But to determine, it's going to be very hard to see it's designed for an audience to view. This particular location is a very high profile location to our historic district, being right at the backdrop of this city small pocket park and hanging tree. That's a historic monument. So we step back in discussion of, this could be our photos. And, there's an opportunity here. She agreed, and one of the things that we identified, and I'm about to bring it up, talk to you here. Here you go. So that alone, again, that's in people's images, and they're in a historic town. How would that be received? And it's an opportunity to create something that somebody would actually want to include for time. So some of the criteria that are typically used in historic districts is very simple. You recall, we've got several examples. You have it here as well. but there's very simply just a sign that says welding or garage or dance. As a matter of fact, it was the owner's decision is just say dance. I said, hey, you know, if it's smaller or more simple, it will be easier to read. It'll have some of that historic context to it, like Dance Studio, Dance Academy. She said, why didn't it just say dance? I said, you know, I think we've seen signs like that in historic districts. True ghost signs, you know, vintage ghost signs.
She is in agreement with just the dance.
So hopefully that helps.
Gina?
Yeah.
She is in agreement with just the dance, which you proposed here. The business owner.
I'm sorry.
The business owner is in agreement with just the words dance.
Yes, it was correct.
I have a quick question. I thought the Old Dominion ad thing got painted over.
The mayor just repainted.
Oh, you just repainted? Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Good job. When you put down, it's not really open though, right?
Yeah.
All it's ever done.
The old one was a full, this was more condensed, because she did want to advertise her building, so she did agree on just dance, but on the frontage, she'll be going again to HVAC for, because she owns that frontage, 3 buildings there, that she's gonna put her signage in the front of it. Like dance just tracks them so they know where it's at.
So do we have to approve this to go back to HVAC, or can we just approve this now and we move?
I think the way Dana said it is we approve it and then the final rendering will just be informal, I think, Dana, approval.
Correct. And we've done it before with HVAC. And that was their condition. Yeah, let's just see what that final looks like and we'll give you any comment if you have any questions.
And that is completed, the lighting will be 12 inches. It'll be less than 10 square feet, the full signage.
No other questions or comments on our motion to approve as read with stipulation of going back to HVAC as an informal rendering. With that and waive the rules.
Motion and second for approval of item C. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Any abstaining? Thank you, Dana.
Thank you all.
Next, we have item D, presentation and possible consideration of resolution number 1868, petitioning the Gila County Board of Supervisors to establish the Intergovernmental Public Transportation Authority in Gila County. Shelley, can you read resolution 1868?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution number 1868. A resolution of the Mayor and Council of the City of Globe, Arizona, approving joining in the formation of an intergovernmental public transportation authority in Gila County, Arizona, becoming a member of such authority and authorizing petition the Board of Supervisors of Gila County, Arizona for such formation. Is council pleased with that reading?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, we have a slide presentation on this.
Yeah, there it is.
So basically, we're here to talk about the resolution to ask Gila County to start an IPTA, which basically is a governing authority for transit. And let's see, let's just jump right into it. So the case of the IPTA in Gila County back in 2018, there was, anyway, 2018, we started, it was asked that we take a look at the governance of our transit in not only in southern Gila County, but in northern Gila County, because of the B-Line transit up there on their senior center. They applied for a grant back then in 2021. So in 2021, it was, we started looking into this IPTA, and the Gila County Transit Governance Study was conducted. And we met with Miami, Globe, Payson, Star Valley, and Gila County. and they were the guiding members of this study to see if it was possible to put together an IPTA. And basically what we're asking for tonight, just so we don't get confused as we move through this, is we're asking Gila County to start an IPTA. It doesn't take over anything immediately, but it gives them the ability to start that. And that has to come from a request from the cities and from the members. So the IPTA is being formed to maximize its opportunities, and for federal and state, I'm way ahead of myself here. There we go, I skipped a couple slides. But basically, after we did the study, they come back and they said the IPTA and with its members should move forward with forming an IPTA for Gila County. It does a few things for us. It puts together 2 transit systems. It helps maximize our opportunities for federal and state grants. It also minimizes our expenditures through administrative costs. And some people think that that's the only thing that it would, because you have the same routes and so forth, but you also have administrative costs for advertisement, for bus stops, for things like that you can now order in bulk and so forth, and get an opportunity to save some money. I know when I was in Miami, it was a big deal on what routes were taken by how we qualified for different federal and state funding. And with this opportunity, I believe that we could qualify for even more funding. And I don't want anybody to think that we're doing away with Miami Transit, the Copper Mountain Transit. What we're doing is establishing an opportunity right here to look into how we could maximize this. We're not doing away with anything. We're giving an opportunity to Gila County to look into this. If they move forward with the IPTA and it is decided that they would become the governing authority with the transit system in these 2 areas, then we would not only save money in the money that we're putting in right now, but we would gain additional partners as well. And I think Paul's going to talk about the partners later on. But basically, the meetings that we've been having is there a want for these communities to have that opportunity? Because it doesn't make any sense if all we're going to do is keep the same service out there, unless you're going to combine the 2 transit systems and save on the administrative fees. So right now, if we take on the additional partners, if we have additional stops, we can actually get more federal and state grants for this system, and also have a bigger pool for our equipment and a bigger pool for our drivers and personnel as well. You know, one of the big things that I had in Miami was keeping bus drivers. I mean, we went through bus drivers right and left, and that's because it's a small bus system. If you have a bigger transit area, those bus drivers tend to stick around a lot longer. I know when I was over there, we struggled with wages. We struggled with a lot of different things and were successful, and they still are. But we think we can be even more successful if we go into this IPTA. And we think that even though the county might look into this and say, no, we can't do it, we think we should give them the opportunity to do so. So we're almost to you, Paul.
Yeah, go ahead and go one more.
Okay. Okay, the statutory requirements are the, 400,000 or less, population 400,000. Hyena County, qualifies there, governing body of incorporated city, we qualify there with our partners. County Board of Supervisors to hold at least one public hearing, and we've done that already, petitioning municipalities to determine the public support. That's what we're doing here tonight. And the County Board of Supervisors to establish an authority by resolution. That's what we're asking for tonight, is that resolution that includes a description of the boundaries of authority. And Paul will talk about that in a second.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, the just in a nutshell, instead of having dual systems with repetitive administrative costs, this puts an authority in place where you can centralize those costs and keep the prices of both systems lower than they would be if they were repeating this stuff. If you have two sets of administration, you have two sets of finance, you have two sets of HR looking after this. And in order to do that, you have to have some type of authority. I think ADOT brought this idea forward to do the IPTA, centralizing in the county. The governance, how this is run, would be determined, at least in the overarching view, by the initial members. So what we're asking for tonight is to ask the county to both create this ITPA and to ask us to be a member. Now, everyone here will be a member. Those who are voting will be those who are participating in funding one or two of these operations. One of the putting money forward. We put $73,000 a year already. Our goals are that this system, which we know and we value and want to keep going, we want to keep it affordable. We want to save costs. We want to optimize the funding. And so by putting this in place, we can look at building governance structure and then look and see if there are savings to be had. It does not lock us into anything. It does not change anything. It is the onus of this ITPA to build a set of, the next step is a set of bylaws, requirements to build a partnership, to make sure everybody feels that their needs are being met, because you can't do this if you have partners who don't feel equally empowered, and then that each partner has to feel that it benefits them. And I think that the benefit that we're after is savings of the money, lowering the cost, and continuing the great service that we have know and love and want to keep going. So, like I said, the next step, we put this to the county. The county has public hearing. They set up this ITPA. We go ahead and we get on board and we have a voice as to the bylaws. The bylaws could be anything. Is it members from the council? Is it members of staff? What are the requirements to be the manager? How do we invest in the systems we have? How do we transfer them over? We can set those all up. And then if we come up with a good plan and everybody's on board with that plan, then we pull the trigger on that and let that happen. It's about a 2-year process. So, like say,
About the boundaries, Paul.
Can I ask a couple
yeah, sure.
questions? So is it intentional that the Tondo Apache and the San Carlos Apache are not part of this? Do they have their own program?
They do have their own program, and that doesn't mean they won't be a part of that in the future. This initial IPTA through the county is excluding them because they have a strong transit system. They've been approached and they're not wanting to talk.
Okay.
And Mr. Mayor, members of Councilman Shipley, also they have a direct relationship with the federal government, and this funding comes through ADOT, and so it's a different path for the money. And so, not to make things more complex than they need to be, but this is the choice that they've been doing.
Yeah, they get a lot of the same funding as what we do.
Yeah.
And but they operate in a whole. They have other criteria that they fall under that makes them more qualified for different things. They wouldn't be for this, and so it would probably actually hurt them at this point rather than help them. Other than if we put this together and if the IPTA takes over the transit system, who's better to run this transit system than Miami or San Carlos or one of the companies that is out there right now. So, you know, they know the system. So we're really not trying to take anything away from them. You know, the membership up here that you looked at, these are all people who would set meetings and showed an interest in this. No one of these initial proposed members is going to stop this from moving forward. Majority of them would. If the county decides that it does not make economic sense or regional sense, they would stop it as well. I mean, we have a good transit system. We're not knocking that. We just would like to have a better one and one with a foundation that's really stable. And when I say stable, I mean it stabilizes by a group of 9 members rather than just 3. So I think at this point, from dealing with the back then it was a Cobra Rally transit, but in dealing with them, if one of our members had pulled out, it would have devastated the system. You know, we couldn't have afforded to move forward. Well, with this system, if one of the members pulled out, it wouldn't shut the system down. We would still move forward. It would be tougher, but we would move forward. I think it's a great idea to at least put together the IPTA and ask the county to look into this to see if it is, to deal with Miami and Beeline Transit up in Payson, and just Payson or Star Valley.
Yeah, both.
And anyway, and deal with them and find out what assets are available for them to acquire, and to figure out how it all will work. I mean, at this point, we don't even know, like Paul said, what our bylaws would be. We don't know what our membership would look like. You know, each municipality, as I showed on this slide here, each municipality would have at least 1 member, each active municipality. But is that member off council? Is that member off staff? You know, is that a member appointed as a resident in the community? That depends on the bylaws of the IPTA. The initial members would decide that.
So I got one more question.
Sure.
Because when I look at Kearney, it feels like it's Gila County, but it's not. It's Pinal County. But if I were in Hayden, Winkleman, there isn't even a grocery store there, really. So your best place to get some kind of service would actually be Kearney. And
well,
we wouldn't be able to do that, right?
So there are all kinds of, for instance, Copper Mountain Transit right now has a transfer point with San Carlos, and it is right near our train station. So the people from San Carlos can get on the Copper Mountain Transit or vice versa and travel to any one of the stops in our area. That would be something that the people in Hayden and in that area would be able to do. Right now, I think San Carlos is actually, but do you know, Mayor, is they busing in once a week into Superior or something like that?
I think you're right.
Yeah, I think it's once a week they bus into Superior. And so those kind of extra accommodations could be done, especially if you had a governance that would say this is the need that our communities need. You know, we would make sure we found a way to pay for that grant. This is a long process. You know, Paul said probably within a year. I'm thinking more like 2. It would take to convert it over from the current transit system to the IPTA, because it's not as simple as Miami giving all their buses to us and so forth. There's other things involved with personnel. There's areas where we keep our bus that we rent from Miami and so forth, where we'd be able to keep doing that. I mean, there's all kinds of things that we would have to deal with. But the place to start is the IPTA, and that's up to you guys tonight, whether you want to become an initial member.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I attended the County of Miami meeting last night, and they raised several questions. But I have a different path. I want to ask you a couple things. You're a magician when it comes to ADOT funding. Do you really think they're going to up the ante if we do this kind of scenario and do it countywide? Is that a possibility for additional funding?
I think it depends on IPTA and the routes they put together and the partnerships they put together. You know, in addition to some of the savings that you would have on administrative costs as far as management costs and so forth, you can also show ADOT that you're going to be more active in the advertisement. You can be more active in the selection of the bus stops. And because the more people you have getting on these buses, the more funding you get. So we have to be able to prove that to get an increase in that funding. It's a dogfight every time you put in for it, isn't it, Angel? It's tough, but we've been successful at it in the past, and I think that partnering together with all these communities, I think that would be even more successful. Does that answer your question?
That's wonderful.
Okay.
Can I get a report of the consultant who did the study?
Yeah, we should.
Not today, but can I get a copy of it to read it?
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the items of discussion at the town council meeting last night. Not stepping and speaking for the town of Miami, attending it was an exercise in lack of information to the town for whatever reasons. And there was lots of questions and confusion about this future. However, I tried to just tell the council, it's another way to organize something locally and have the power locally by participating in whatever committee is set up. I've had a long career dealing with those kinds of committees, whether it was Homeland Security monies, hazmat monies, and disbursement, working with the federal government and the state to have basically shovel-ready projects so that you could apply and even grow items. So this is no different than what I've seen in the past, but it appeared there was a lot of not enough information to the town council last night. And that's why I'm asking for a copy of that study so I can see for myself what the conclusions were. And of course, I'm sure it's well written, I'm sure it's concise. And I see that we're headed into a future that we better jump onto this bandwagon, or else we could lose a stake in the future of this particular subject.
Well, and Mr. Mayor, members of council, Councilman Gonzalez also attended last night, and there, like I say, there's a background information from this, the meetings have gone on, but there are some questions that can't be answered until this is put together. In talking to the vice mayor today, it's like, well, how does this change how much we're going to participate in? And I'm like, we won't know that until we get this going, sit down, make the partners, get the input from the partners, and then see where we're going to be at. But I think the whole onus for this is to know that whatever the cost, it's going to be less if it's combining administrative costs. And the one cost we haven't talked about is that application cost. All of the paperwork and what it takes to apply and to keep track of and report on that can be centralized very easily. So the goal of this whole project is to lower the cost so we can have a more affordable service and or expand the service, and that's really good. But there are a lot of questions that we won't know until we get there. But we're excited, and to answer those questions, we hope that everyone has a seat at the table.
And that's just one more item, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Our future. We are about to open a major aquatic center. And I know every mom and dad are going to want to send them over there, but don't want to drive them over there. So there is a possibility for additional service from the current line to work with us to service that need. The last thing I want to say, Mr. Mayor, was last year I had an auto accident. I was without a vehicle for 2.5 months last year, as you know, Paul. And I had to come up with money to pay for taxi. But I knew that if I couldn't get a taxi, that Miami's system was available to me at all times. And monitoring that work that they do, they're there every day running the different people, they drop off people. They're there on their regularly scheduled routes. I think they do a great job. But it looks to the future also. If we have this kind of growth going in the community, I thought of this last year. Maybe they should offer, or we should find a way to fund an after-hour service and or weekend service. That's not happening right now because they have constraints in funds and grants. So you see the future. If we are in a growth We are in growth here in Globe Miami, and the need of transportation should be managed, should be administered, and possibly grown. And I don't know about Mason, I know I hate going up there on a Friday afternoon, it's terrible. But the point is here in this region, it behooves us to get ahead of the curve and know what we're getting into, and then to fund it accordingly if we can get the funding.
It's a good
to
point.
make that happen.
It's a good point, and my advice to this council and to Miami's council is get a seat at the table. Send this resolution out, get a seat at the table, have an active voice in what this is. If you don't agree with it, that's the time to voice it.
Right.
It's not by passing this resolution, it doesn't mean we're doing away with Copper Mountain Transit. It doesn't mean we're doing away with Beeline Transit. It means that you're going to be on a committee, or you will have a representative on the committee to make those decisions. And that's what this is about tonight. And it's getting you a seat on that committee. Am I right?
Yes.
And you're right. Transit's important. Both my sons, and Jeremy down in Phoenix and Matthew Barnes out in Seattle for a period of time rode the transit to their work and so forth, and it helped them out a lot. So there's a lot of people like that. So I just hope that nobody overreacts to this, because I've sat in these meetings and nothing has been decided. They are waiting on this IPTA membership conglomerate to get together to see who's at the table. You know, if nobody wants to join, why even start? So
Yeah, I've got a couple of comments, Jerry. Prior to this, I've been on the local transit board that was there when the town manager Heatherly was running it.
Mm-hmm.
And we haven't really had any active meetings since COVID hit, but we used to have quarterly meetings where we kept up with the grants and the different funding that went through. So I'm kind of versed on what to be done locally. Just being part of this IPTA doesn't commit us to agreeing in the end if the bylaw, we don't like the bylaws or the guidelines, right?
Correct.
Because
and no, this no one will be forced into this, and that is the most important thing. Every member, including members who currently operate, need to choose to join this.
And because I just worry that, and I agree, maybe it should be under one authority, but we have different needs than Hayden Winkelman has. We have different needs than Payson has, than Northern Hill County. I don't want to see us lose any less of what we have now. I'd like to see us expanded. And with this IPTA, if you have this board that's overseeing it, do we still need subcommittees that operate locally to make recommendations to this board? Or are we just going to have one voice on that board, and that's going to be an important voice for our community.
And that would be a decision in the bylaws as to if there's a subcommittee for the South, subcommittee for the North. I've been kind of running this one through my head. If you have 3 members in the South that have an issue, and the couple members in the North are like, doesn't really relate to them, but it may be something that they have that they don't have. I don't see them really doing anything but support logical responses to it. And they're going to be supportive because they're going to want us to be supportive, the South to be supportive, any questions they have in the North. So the two operations don't touch, but I think there's a mutual courtesy that they have. And the only where their areas come together is to make sure that to maximize the funding and those administrative functions, which are pretty straightforward, but the nuances of stops and times and routes and stuff like that, I think the non-impacted group will defer to the impacted group's wishes. I think we've seen these work that way before, where everybody understands the needs of the others, and because they're all in the same boat.
Yeah, I just don't want to see, because a bigger population up north, that they have more of a say so what happens to the transit system. We're just as important down here. I don't care if we don't have the population they have. It's always like in a total county, if you do something down here, you got to do something up north. But this is totally different, I would think, because transit is important to every community, and I just want to make sure that we have equal representation and our voices heard.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, Councilman Gonzalez, I think that was asked at Miami if there'd be a population, if it'd be based on population, and it's whatever's in the bylaws. If you put it as population, you do it in the bylaws. If we don't allow it, then it's not. It's one right now. It's one municipality or one organization, one vote. Whether it's Hayden Winkleman or it's Payson, no matter the population, one vote. So we like that.
But you will be represented in every decision, even the decisions up north. The funding opportunities will be different as to needs. When we make applications to ADOT for federal funds and so forth, it's based on the amount of miles. It's based on the expenses that you have. It's based on the drivers. All those things, and it's administrative is so many percent, operational is so many percent. There's a lot to it. In fact, when I was at Miami, we would have to hire consultants to come in and map our routes rather to maximize the dollars we could get, just so we could prove to ADOT and the federal government that we could get these extra dollars. I believe that the funding up north is going to be the funding up north. It will be part of the application. It'll be easier for us to get approved for these applications, but there's going to be different fundings. And I think that IPTA will show you that. But we won't know it unless we're on it.
And I guess that's the point I was trying to make. As long as I know we put $73,000 a year in our city from our portion of it, but this program here is more than $500,000. It's supplemented by ADOT.
And the federal government.
Yes, and I'd hate to see us lose any part of that because there's a bigger population up north. That's the only concern I have. That we make sure that we have the opportunity for funding for grants like the last one that was held a couple of years ago where they got about $150,000-$200,000. That's what we're seeing, these new buses that are driving around here because they got additional grant funding besides what the funding they have annually.
So I give you a scenario, how the IPTA, as when you combine these bus lines, could happen. Not only, like I said before, the routes and so forth could be increased in some areas to increase funding, but the equipment. I mean, if we have a bus go down in Miami's transit, they have to bring in a backup bus that maybe not is 100% running all the time. And if they did that, we would always have a reserve bus that we could come down from the north. We could send it up there if it needed. It depends on where it was housed at, but you could always have that reserve. When you only have three buses running now. So when you only have 3 buses, it's hard to keep a 4th one in reserve. But when you have 6 or 8, it's easy to keep one in reserve. And that's in a grant application. That is very provable that that's a benefit to the systems. That's just a scenario. All these things will be worked out with the IPTA and with meetings with the member entities. So, and I know that the mayor is here tonight to listen as well as participate. But I ran that system over there for quite a few years, and it's a good system. It's just it can be better. It can be better. And it's hard for Miami to come to us and say, hey, we can make this system better if you give us another $50,000. But if we have a way to get that money without us increasing what we put in, that's possible.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, two quick items. Number one, I'm going to correct Jerry here because something I love to do. Jerry referred to we're not going to take over any systems. We have to build a structure that these systems and the current operators of these systems want to join. They need to want to come and be part of this. Therefore, we need to build a structure that is inviting and treats everyone, as they wish to be treated. Number two, I'm imagining that when this same discussion goes on in Star Valley and Payson, that they're going to be having the same questions. Well, I don't want to have those, Globe in Miami telling us how to run our system up here in Payson. And I think everybody on that same page to make sure that the local voices are heard and recognized, and we're not, at the mercy of the other end of the county. Thank you.
So wouldn't it be nice though to get together in that IPTA membership group and finally discover that it doesn't make any sense? You know, and if it doesn't make any sense, then we know how to move forward. And if it does, then it'll make sense for both communities. So I believe we have to look at this and say, let's see what's out there and let's see if it makes sense for Globe.
I totally agree. As long as we got equal voice in there, you know, even to the, when we bought these last buses, we looked at the specs on them. Miami and Globe need a different, we were gonna go to the type of bus that they keep with the lower height on the bottom, but we can't use it in Miami town. You have to have those buses with a higher clearance on the bottom in order to make some of these streets. So it's important, as long as we get a voice in what's going on, that's gonna be truly important.
So we're looking to bring this back for.
And they, given the schedule and the fact that this is an ongoing process, I think we put waive the rules in there just so we can go on board and move and get this flowing so that we can meet some deadlines. So we would like to. We will talk about this again, but we would like to have you waive the rules on the resolution itself. So we can signal to the other members that we're on board.
That's not on the agenda.
Is it? Okay. But I would request that council waive the rules.
In the meantime, I will get you all the paperwork that you need. I mean, that doesn't stop you from being a member.
Mayor, the way I look at it is it just gives us another tool in the toolbox, and if it makes sense to use it, then we should have the ability to use it. So I would move to waive the rule and approve resolution number 1868 as read.
Second.
Motion second for approval of resolution 1868. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? Any abstaining? Motion passed. Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.
Item E, consideration of council to accept the non-matching Arizona Librarians Fostering Resilient Rural Communities AHEAD Arizona mini grant with a value of $5,000 to carry out the growing mentally and physically strong program and request to waive section 2-4-10 registration. Rael.
Hi, Mayor and City Council. I appreciate you taking your time to hear this. At the AZLA conference that I attended at the end of October, I learned about this grant opportunity to get funds to produce programs in our area for mental health or community health. And since the Gila County Health Improvement Plan included trying to solve things or improve the community's numbers by decreasing the number of suicides and deaths caused by overdoses and teen pregnancies. Mental health is one of those things that plays into that heavily. And so by getting this grant, which I was able to work with a couple of other community players to pull together, we will be able to use the state's money, the university's money, to pay for the programming and the training necessary for yoga classes and gardening and teaching growth mindset and teen mental health. And it's $5,000 that doesn't have to be matched by anybody. So it's basically $5,000 for free. Well, a lot of work.
Any questions or comments for Rael? Rael, I got a question. Is there any component that's in it for education on opioid overdoses or anything, or is this just mental health?
It's mental health, but we can certainly put that in with some of the teen programming. I know that we're going to be working on doing some parent education and teen education on the drug problem in our area in general as part of our programming for this upcoming year.
Like I mentioned, go out and look for my and be able to get it.
Yeah, thank you for that work you do to reach out to get this stuff.
If there's no other questions or comments, I motion to approve and accept the non-matching Arizona Library and Scholarship Resilient Rural Communities, any that AZ mini grant for value of $5,000, and with required special vote.
I'll second that.
Motion is second for approval of item C. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed, nay. Any abstaining? Thank you, Ray.
Mayor, can I just make a quick comment?
Go ahead.
Cause I don't know, sometimes I talk to constituents and they're like, why do you guys go to these conferences and stuff? I'm like, cause you learn a lot. You meet people, you find out about opportunities you can help your community. It's important, you know, so it's a good thing that we do that.
Totally agree.
Thank you.
Item F, discussion and consideration to ratify the grant request for $2,792,565 from the Arizona Department of Transportation Off-System Bridge Program submitted on December 1st, 2022 for the 2024 Bridge Off-System Bridge Grant for the replacement of the Cottonwood Bridge, Upper Canal Creek Bridge number 9711. Period.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, remember when we gave them $1 million?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Rick's here to tell you what we did. Okay, thanks to Jerry's leadership and our relationships with ADOT, we were able to meet with some of the leadership there, and they recommended that we reapply, having given us this previous grant. They did graciously allow us to not have to pay back the design money. That's the good news, because now we're basically at 99% design. The only thing left to do is to seal the plans by the engineers and go out to advertisement. So under this grant, what we did was go through for construction funding only because the design's done. According to ADOT, our meetings with the management of ADOT, that gives us the advantage to hopefully be awarded this funding. So we had to do some projections of cost growth and all that. We did the best we could. It's just an uncertain time right now. So that number, the reason it escalated so high is trying to account for some of those cost escalations. That's why it had such a high growth factor on there. We've talked with ADOT. We feel like the cost growth is covered and that there shouldn't be any additional cost to the city unless that cost growth exceeds that amount, which we're hoping and confident, ADOT's confident that it will not do that. So we're just here to tell you that that application was sent in. It's a competitive process. It was required to go through CAG first for prioritization regionally. And fortunately, talking with Travis, it's the number one rated project because it's the only subject. So, I think people underestimate the amount of time and effort it takes to put these together. You just don't throw them together overnight. If you saw your packet, you saw the length of that. There's about 79 pages of attachments that go with that. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer those at this time. We kind of have an advantage with myself and Rick and Luis here, three state engineers. So, you know, we think we got an inside track on this. We're hoping we still put this project in for RTA funding as well, and so we can come out on that. We have a priority on it as well as the sidewalk project. So, and we've been told that if we get this funding, which I'm, you know, thinking we might, then we can shift part of the RTA money, if we get that, over into Connie's Bridge. So, and then offset some of the costs there, and maybe we can get some of our asphalt program going again. So, you know, we're always thinking. But this is what we've been waiting on. Rick did an excellent job putting things together in this application. And he actually sent it off to the bridge group, and they reviewed it and came back with an attaboy for him. So we feel pretty confident. And we just need you to ratify us because we had to get ahead of this meeting and get it submitted. Okay.
Mayor, if there are no other questions or comments, I motion to ratify as read.
Second?
Are we waiving the rules on that later?
Well, it's going to come
They're
back.
gonna come back? or-
Yeah, I mean, if we get that.
It's a ratification, so the rules need to be.
Yes, well, but if we receive it, we'll have to come back and accept it, so there's no need to waive the rules.
Okay.
We have motion and second for ratification approval of item F. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Abstaining. Motion passes. Thank you, Rick and Jerry.
So I just want to thank Shelley for not putting me very last this time.
We got item G, consideration and possible approval of contract number CS-2023-0032 with Rodriguez Construction for the Amster Building Abatement Repair in the amount of $24,061 to be funded from account number 10-61-52200 Public Works Capital Outlay Construction, and consideration and possible approval of change order number 1 for mitigation of flooring with Rodriguez Construction in the amount of $32,092.60. Also to be funded from 10-61-5200, and we request to waive section 2-4-10A prior discussion. Jerry.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, this is for the damage that was done to the Hampshire building. When we got up there, there was not only did we mitigate the mildew and some of the damage that was down the inside, but once we got up there, we found the flooring could not be matched, and it was too uneven and so forth in places. So we would like to, this is a twofer. So you get to approve the contract and then the change order. And then I guess it's a threefer, because I would like for you to also have 15% contingency on that, because we still don't have the work done. So, and probably another $5,000 contingency on top of it.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, like I say, they're still, it's an old building and they're finding things. And so just so we don't have to come back for you for $750 or something, we'd like to put a 15% contingency on the 32,092, which would come out $4,813.80.
Or approximately.
Thank you.
So,
and now the funding from this is coming out of the CIP, Public Works Construction. We had put some money aside for there. We are not pulling it from fund balance. We are pulling out of the general fund, and we have time to adjust this. If we need to do any shuffling of general fund money, we can do that. But we believe that we'll have enough money in that line item to complete this, even though it wasn't originally accounted for. The 32, I think the 24 was, yeah, but the 32.
The 1061 is council contingency, but what Paul's telling you is the general fund money coming that isn't used goes back into the council contingency, so it offsets it this time of year. So, and this is not only public works; it's from all departments. It all goes back into the general fund.
In Jerry's, I do believe that this is the CIP line item, not contingency.
Okay, but it's still,
we changed it.
It's still general fund, so
it's general fund.
It's still general fund money, and it's going to come out of the. It's going to end up coming out of the general fund, so because there's not enough money in public works, general fund contingency. So I'm just telling you it'll work. I looked at it, it'll work. There's enough money, excess money left over in the CIPs in all the departments and the operating budgets in the departments to replace this funding in the general fund.
That I agree with.
Yeah, so we can argue that.
No,
so I looked at, okay, so remember the item that I had to get 16 different things? Okay, I didn't want to do this with this. So I did it this way, and because all that comes back into the same fund. So Paul was on vacation, so I made an executive decision.
No, I think you have that backwards.
This 32,000 change order is added to the Rodriguez construction contract, but it's not him doing the flooring, right?
Fino is doing the flooring as a subcontractor to Rodriguez.
Yeah, it's under his contract as a subcontractor. And basically we walked the place and there's no way to tie it all together unless we do it all. And it's our building, it's an investment, for us and therefore we need to do it while we can.
Yeah. And like I say, we're moving people over as of a week, next Monday. We'll start moving a couple of departments when the move's completed. We'll have the finance department, the HR department, IT department, and fire admin. We'll be working all out of that area that we are renovating right now. And so that the new carpeting is for health reasons and for, practical reasons of matching and getting that all set up. It's a good time to do this all at once.
And if your motion could include that 50% contingency.
Who's trying all right, so I'm just gonna read it. So I'll move to approve contract number CS-2023-0032 for Futures Construction for the Astor Building pavement repair in the amount of $24,061 to be funded from account number 10-61-52200. Public Works Capital Outlay Construction and consideration of possibly approval of change order number 1 for mitigation of flooring, which we just did, with Rodriguez Construction in the amount of $32,092.60. Also be funded from 10-61-52000 and request to waive the fire discussion.
And 15%.
And a 15% contingency.
Thank you. Second. Motion second to approve item G. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Any abstained? Motion passed. Item H, consideration of approval of change order number 1 to contract number CS-2022-0052 with Superior Tank Solutions for the Hagen Tank 1 renovation project to request to transfer $30,250 from account number 50-80-53005 water expense contingency to account number 50-80-52200 water capital outlay construction and request to waive section 2-4-10A prior discussion. Carried.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, this one does come out of Public Works. So it comes out of the water contingency fund. So basically when we approved the contract to do tank 1, once we got it drained and it was sounded, the floor was no good. And so we had the steel plates that had to be welded in the floor. Is correct, Vince? And so the change order that you're looking at now is for those steel plates to be added. Remember, tank 1 is not a molded tank; it's a steel tank. It's a welded steel tank. So the floor was bad, and it's been there a lot of years. But for this amount of money, you're getting a practically brand new tank.
Is that a $1 million gallon tank?
That is a 500,000 gallon, and the other two are 1.5 million. So we basically, when we finish with these 3, we'll add 1 million gallons to the system.
Questions, comments, or motion? Motion to approve is read.
Second.
Motion second for approval of item H. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Any abstaining? Item I, consideration possible approval of change order number 1 to contract number PS-2021-0038 with RFI Consultants for quality assurance inspection services of Hagen Tank number 1 renovation and to transfer $10,000 from account number 50-80-53005 water expense contingency to account number 50-80-52200 water capital outlay construction and waive section 2-4-10A prior discussion. Carried.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, this is the item that we approved the contract to do tank 1. We still haven't gotten a price from the inspector for the coating And this $10,000 in for reason, and that's what this is for, is so we can provide professional inspection for the county.
I'll move to approve item I.
Motion second for approval of item I. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Any abstaining, motion passed. Item J, consideration and possible approval of change order number 1 to contract number CS-2022-0044 with Advanced Air System for the wastewater treatment plant AC unit project in the amount of $750 to be funded out of account number 50-80-52200 Water Capital Outlay Construction and Request to waive section 2-4-10A prior discussion.
Good evening, Mayor.
You got a little one, huh?
He's doing the big dollars, I do the little dollars. Yeah, so this is a change order. We so approved CIP item to install a air conditioner down at the wastewater treatment plant. During the installation, it wasn't, but we didn't let the installers know that a light fixture was going to be illuminated during another project. So they put the head unit a little too low, and it didn't actually circulate air in there. So we let them know that it was the light fixture was going to be moved. So then it came back and readjusted the head unit up higher, costing us $750. So here it is.
Just a quick question, so we have to approve it because it was a contracted amount before?
Right, we didn't have the contingency, it went over that, and even though if we just bought the 750 outright would be fine, but we can't overspend that from what council approved.
It's a change to the contract as well.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to go ahead and recommend we approve item J as read.
Second. Motion second for approval of item J. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Any abstaining? Motion passed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Item K, discussion and consideration of possible approval of the proposed inspection service agreement ISA for inspection services between the Arizona Department of Housing and the City of Globe. Linda.
Yes. And we're going to have Mr. Manfredi present tonight. Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. I have a PowerPoint slide. Thank you. Can you hear me okay? I'm trying to remember that. I hope you're all doing well. So tonight I want to present to you the Arizona Department of Housing, ISA agreement, that came back our way, re-upping. If you're not sure what the ISA is, an inspection service agreement with Arizona Department of Housing. So I'd like to hit some PowerPoint bullet marks here. I'll keep it short and just hit the real key points here. But wanted to review the Department of Housing, review the purpose of the ISA, key points, and look at some fees that come along with that. And when I get to that point, I'll point out why that's important. The main purpose of DOH is to maintain standards and quality for manufactured homes. These things can be factory-built buildings, older mobile homes, manufactured homes, items such as that. I'd like to also point out here, I kind of did this purposely here, that their adopted code schedule, they're on the 2018 edition of the iCodes. We are in 2003, and the important factor here is that we're behind, and we want to maintain a standard that allows us to use best practices, and this is a good example of that. DOH is they maintain that standard by upgrading their code schedules and looking at best practice materials, engineering attributes to provide a safe, consistent house or home, whether that be factory built building, manufactured home, mobile home. We want to do that as well by means of the building department for what we do. So I kind of just wanted to touch on that a little bit. DOH currently has 54 jurisdictions in the state of Arizona that they have an ISA with. The ISA program's been in place since 1980. Been around, pretty effective, and the reason why they have an ISA is to alleviate duplication processes, meaning the permitting process, the inspection process, and frankly, it's about manpower as well. So they utilize jurisdictions to go out and conduct the inspections on their behalf. And Department of Housing, they regulate this program. We just follow it, and we follow it by means of their practices, their guidelines, their training. So in order to be able to do that, the folks that are involved in ISAs have to have some landmarks for them to meet, which inspection is one of the big ones. You have to be able to maintain a training, go through a training program, maintain that certification through them. And that, sets the tone for being able to do their inspections, how they want them, what to follow, and just in general, how you conduct an inspection on a set for these types of homes. So Arizona has an increase of 3% projected. It's kind of an interesting number over the next 2 fiscal years, and national anticipated 10%. And if we're all paying attention to the news, what we're seeing lately is the talk of housing. We all know what that tone looks like. We're short on housing. That's throughout the whole United States. That's locally. So they're trying to address that. So we, over the last year, have one manufactured home set in the city of Globe. So under an ISA agreement, you may think that, well, is it good break our backs to be able to do this and do it with maps? And the answer to that is no, it certainly won't do that. Based on, we're a city, most cities don't see a whole lot of manufactured homes, modular homes, factory built homes. We see it more in the outlying areas, more than we do in the city areas, but we do have some parks, and we are furthering our annexations of property and land for the city of Globe. So we are going to see that little outreach here in the near future, and we should project that. We have to accommodate housing, and there are a lot of options. And going back to what we're seeing on TV and around the country, is one of the ways we address that are manufactured homes, factory built buildings, and there's a lot of reasons why. It's affordability, it's sustainability, there's things like that. And what you can do as far as these types of build in the time frame that you can do them outweighs what you can do with a single family residence home or a multiple condo duplex style, right? The time frames are much shorter, meaning that we can get people into homes, get people moved up into the city of Globe in a faster, more effective manner. So when we talk about those rates and we see 10% nationally, I kind of project, I kind of look at that, and I think we're going to see something a little different than that based on the tone of where we're at in this country today. So that just kind of gives you an idea of what we're looking at. The key points here, I'll hit these briefly. I want to talk about fees. There are ADOH regulations fees. We don't have jurisdiction over that regulation. They set the tone for these things. They set the tone for inspection requirements, and we follow it. And we do that by training. This is provided by Department of Housing at no fee. It betters the building department. It gives us opportunity to stay on top of best practices when it comes to housing and what can become available to us. So these fees are there to kind of, they're cost recovery. They're paying us to conduct the work that they can't do or have enough manpower to do and maintain and do it in a time frame. I don't like to say that they can't do, but it's really about timing. It's about what they can present to the customer in a timely manner. What we can do within 24 hours notice on inspections may take them 2 weeks or even longer to do for inspection. So you can see how that might put a damper on the process of the manufactured home, factory built building that's supposed to be faster to produce, but slower to inspect if we don't have an ISA in place and be able to produce that. So the permit fee revenues, as I said, they're regulated by them, and it's cost recovery for our time. It's inspection, it's automobile use, it's gas, it's paperwork, administrative. And I'd like to think of it as an opportunity for circulated revenues for us. So anytime we get a chance to keep money within our city and keep it circulating, it betters our economic stance. And that's how I feel about it. I'm no way a economic professional, but I see it as a benefit to keep that money within our own city, rather than Department of Housing taking that money and having it circulate elsewhere. So that covers the cost part. Qualifications, I kind of already said that, covered that. That's covered at no cost to us by Department of Housing. We have to have yearly training with that, the ability to go onto their dashboard and reporting. It's all sustainable. I had the training when I was at my last place of employment, and upon conversation with the Department of Housing, they had already moved that over to the city of Globe. So we're covered in that aspect. These are customer service benefits, better communication. I kind of get these points, so I don't want to repeat myself too much, but why an ISA would work good for us, it betters our communication, it betters timing for inspection, gets people in their homes quicker. We have that opportunity of cost recovery, recirculating funds. We have better internal communication, because even though ADOH is the regulator here, we still have function that we have to worry about here, mainly planning and zoning. So that still falls under us, and we still have to ensure that we're following those guidelines and making those decisions just like any other building in the city, and on their zoning. So that's a pretty important factor. And again, it's convenience for our customers and residents to be able to get permits locally rather than having to go maybe into town and get a permit through the Department of Housing.
Tony Fernando has a question.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually have a couple. So I had to learn this the hard way because I bought land and built a manufacturer. We got a manufactured home on there. One of the things that we ran into was, first of all, you have to do 2 closings. You have to close on the land, and then when the house is done, you completely reclose again and do. But what happened is the manufacturer was pointing the finger at the contractor who was doing the installation. The contractor was doing the installation basically was pointing the finger at the contractor, and no one would resolve the issues that needed to be resolved. So I actually filed a complaint with the state. They sent someone out, and they basically said, you're doing this, you're doing this, you're doing this, and that was it. So now by us going this route, we would then become that arbitrator?
So the state ultimately oversees the, right? It's their program, they oversee it, there are rules that we have to play by, and that have to be in effect with our building department, our inspectors. That's where that training piece comes in. So a lot of times the finger pointing, it does come into play. Usually the jurisdictions in that point of range, they're saying, well, their jurisdiction is holding us up somewhere along the line. And again, that's where the importance of these programs and a relationship with Department of Housing can alleviate a lot of this. And ultimately, again, the installers have to be Blue Cat, have to be licensed and certified through the manufacturer Department of Housing to be able to even set these types of homes. They have to go through the training and they have standards to meet, right? This is all regulated from the OH. And so with that being said, when we permit through here, it also gives us a little better control to make sure that we're working with proper licensed installers and that we're reporting the proper information over to Department of Housing. And with all these pieces of that process, it alleviates that. There's more control, especially when the jurisdiction is involved. There's more oversight over that. When there's not much oversight, things a little, fly a little freely, and not watched over the way they should. And when I say watched over, again, we have responsibility for training and to uphold by the Arizona Department of Housing. The installers do. And so with that being said,
This is what I think are, because you would be involved with the process, hopefully those issues would be resolved before we have to file a complaint with the state.
yeah, hopefully. And again, it comes back to the state takes their installers pretty seriously. And in the past, they had, they had their share of hurdles with installers, and they modified and protected their program for installation over the years, and it's become better, more accountable, right? Better training, better availability of install. They opened it up wider, so competition, and so the installers take their work pretty seriously these days, and based on modern codes, that's helped to keep that modern code in place. And also because that's what they build off of, so it keeps us progressive. Right? And before they were not so much progressive, they were in a time frame where they were doing what they felt and how they felt it needed to be done, not necessarily following the rules. More oversight these days is what I'm getting at. Did that answer your question?
Thank you.
Okay, welcome. So, just real touch lightly, again, these fees that you're seeing up here are regulated by Department of Housing. We have no bearing on these fees. These are set fees. So you go through Department of Housing, this is what you're gonna pay. You come through us, this is what you're gonna pay. We can't modify these fees. Modification on manufactured homes, it gets a little convoluted, but the building department, so Department of Housing controls a set for these types of building. Anything extra falls back into building department. So if we're modifying a set, if we're doing stem walls or retaining walls, or if we're doing after the fact that the home is set, we're doing carports, covers, things like that, awnings, that's purely under our jurisdiction and guidelines. Okay, so I just want to make it clarify that these fees are set by Department of Housing. What happens if we don't sign into an ISA? So, as I spoke earlier, this is a re-up for us. We've been there before, Department of Housing. They're 5-year contracts, and there's clause in these contracts that either entity, meaning our city or Department of Housing, can break that contract without cause. Right? But they are 5-year contracts. They're pretty liberal. There's talk about the fact that we have to follow some guidelines and act on behalf of Department of Housing when it comes to those particular bills, and that's what we do. So what happens if we don't? There's a couple options. I had talked with the Department of Housing on this because I was unclear on how they would treat that. One of them was outreach to the next closest ISA partner. That would be Gila County. Gila County is a current ISA partner. They would outreach to them and they would offer the availability to conduct those inspections within our jurisdiction under their authority. meaning that any permitting would then go through the county for that. And again, earlier, what happens with that is you have a communication breach. It's harder to keep tabs on the zoning. It's harder to keep tabs on additional permitting because again, as I spoke, additional permitting would come through our agency still. Anything other than that homestead. So if Piola County did not want to partake providing that service, then that's where the Department of Housing, they assume it. And that's where the time frame comes in. So their route right now, so they assume Sholo, this whole Sholo area. Meaning that anytime they have inspections in Sholo, they would put the city of Globe in that time and inspection slot. And that's where that 2 weeks or possibly more would come in for people to do their inspections. There's typically 3 inspections. Could be more if you have different attributes added, but typically there's 3 under these permits. And the Department of Housing permits, their verbiage says 3 inspections. So that time period, they would put us in the schedule because they won't make special trips to do these inspections. They would add us to the Sholo route, and that's when they would do these inspections. So that is basically what would happen. And that causes all the communication challenges with zoning enforcement, staying on top of ordinances or code revisions that we may have or in the future have. So, also, there's a decreased opportunity to identify installers by way of city of Cole business license, and also to keep tabs on unlicensed installers coming in and not having total oversight on them. So that could be, detrimental to the system. We want our homes in the city to go up in a safe, effective, standardized manner. We want our residents to live in good homes, safe homes. So we want to maintain them. Did you have any further questions on that?
I guess it doesn't make any sense that we don't enter this agreement, we're just doing a disservice to our community.
Mayor, I see it as that, and I don't see it as backbreaking. I don't see it as something that's going to break us. Again, we've had one set in the city, excuse me, over this last year. I project that to change, and with the opportunities and problematic issues that we see throughout the country and throughout Arizona with housing, I hope that does change. I hope we're able to provide some development that can address those issues. And one of the best resources are factory-built buildings, modular homes. That gives us our best options all around. They're cost-effective, they're faster, they're green when it comes to build versus a single-family residence. So yes, to answer that, I think all in all it's positive for us. It makes our building department stronger by way of training and opportunity and relationships. And I think that's an important thing to keep in mind as well.
One more question, does the tiny home concept fall under this manufactured home also?
So tiny homes do not. So tiny homes fall under recreation, and they do not regulate that.
So just a lot of people, when you hear modular, they think automatic, like double wide trailer. And, but modular homes can be pre-engineered, small. They come as a kit, you install it, but everything's built somewhere else, you bring it, and you put it together. And so some of those are actually really nice looking, and you can just, I think Linda had a presentation not too long ago on those. And so they've really come a long ways. And so I would like to see, I'd love to see more of those types of houses go in, but I think this is a good sign.
So Councilman, that's exactly what fits into the scope of the Arizona Department of Housing. So those modular, and there's a lot of different terms for them. They're really factory built buildings, they're modular, they're a house in a box. They're, you know, there's a lot of different terminology you may hear with that, but they are doing amazing things with these. It's mind blowing, really, what they can do with them. And they're multi-level, and it's just it's really amazing what they can do, what they can accomplish in the time frame they can do it, along with the cost. So doing these type of things are still substantially more cost effective than doing single family residence. You know, they're able to engineer these things much better these days versus a standard home build. And when you see, if you ever seen when they go out to the factories, if you ever had the opportunity to see that, it's really, frankly, it's amazing. For a 1,500, 2,000 square foot home, they'll take like a 30 gallon bin, trash bin, and the waste product for that build will fit into that container. That's how much waste there is. Now, versus a single family residence, you're looking at a raw dumpster, you know, if even, you know, maybe more. But it's really, quite frank, amazing how they do this.
You have a question?
This is coming back.
Yeah, this is a move forward item. This is something we don't have a timeline on, do we, at this point?
Timeline is subjective, I guess. They want to get it into place and have to sign an ISA so they can make arrangements to have the area covered. I don't think there's a hard timeline, so I'll say no at this point.
Because we won't have another meeting for another month. This is our only meeting.
Mayor, I have to be comfortable making a motion to approve the agreement and waive the rule.
We have a motion and a second for approval of item K. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Any opposed, nay. Any abstaining? Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Action items, we have item A, consideration to approve ordinance 884, which will amend article 3-2, sections 3-2-11 and 3-2-12 of the city of Globe Code. Shelley, can you read ordinance number 884?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ordinance number 884, an ordinance of the City of Globe, County of Gila, State of Arizona, amending the Globe City Code, Article 3-2, modifying Section 3-1-1 and Section 3-2-11, Chief of Police, and Section 3-2-12, Fire Chief, repealing any and all other ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict therewith. Is council pleased with that reading?
Yes.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, we talked about this before. I just wanted to have a quick overview and then get to some of the additional information that we put together. Again, we're at a place where we're really sitting very comfortable with our very high quality professional police chief and fire chief. But we have in our code, and I don't know if everybody realizes it, that the police chief and fire chief are appointed by and serve at the pleasure of the city council, which means that they are hired by and fired by the council. They have, in all this time that I've been here, the council has allowed them to operate under my supervision as city manager, and things have gone very, very well, and we're very happy with the way things are going, which is kind of why I think it's a time to examine and see, do we want to formalize the structure that has been working so good for us right now? Because in the future, someday after most of us have moved on, things may be different. So if we like the structure, I think it's a structure that we should lock in. But yes, currently, right now, the police chief and fire chief, with a vote of 4 members of council, put their employment on the agenda. 4 votes of council, they could be terminated because they were at will and serve at the pleasure. They have none of the merit protections that other Meritus employees have. And in our goal of trying to separate out council to be that leadership and legislative authority, and then the hierarchy where administration and oversight of employees is more so is left to the city manager, which is a cleaner hierarchy. It saves any type of mischief or confusion about who those chiefs work for, or politicking on multiple different entities that could, or individuals. So the change that we have brought back is a little bit different. Can I steal your copy? We had discussed changing this up to allow council to up or down vote approve the selection. So we go through a process, and it would be council saying, yes, we like this person, or yes, we don't, or no, we don't like this person, bring back someone else. And so we've done that. And so if you look in the Article 3.2, it says a chief of police, the 3.2.11 and 3.2.12, the chief of police or the chief of fire, the fire department, shall be selected by the city manager and approved by the council. And then further on, there'll be the administrative head. And then once approved, the chief of police and or the fire chief will be subject to all city personal rules and regulations, including grievance procedures and right of appeal. And so everybody asked, what are those grievance procedures and right of appeal? And so in the staff report, I think you saw those. They have the ability to have an inform. Let's see here. You have progressive discipline, where if there is an issue with the performance of a police chief or fire chief, it goes from a verbal written warning to a written, a second written warning, all of those, and up to termination if that's the process. The right to appeal any type of discipline that modifies pay or demotion or time off. Okay, in that progressive discipline, in that you have a pre-disciplinary hearing, you get notice of intent to impose discipline. They get a heads up on that, a factual explanation of what the issue is and the evidence for that. They can respond to that, and then they get a written imposition of the discipline action. Okay, those are things that are not included for our police chief and fire chief right now. Right now, if there is an issue, instead of going through this discipline process, it could be that council puts that issue on a council agenda, and then we have the agenda discussed, and it could turn into a vote. It might turn into a vote, or as this council has done, is given me direction to deal with this. I don't think I've had to do any discipline action on either of the chiefs we have right now, just so you know, clear the record. But we're looking to the future. But the other property right, or the other due process right, if as a member of the city terminated through the policies and procedures, not through council, they would have a 10-day window to notify the manager of intent to appeal the termination. We would have a 15-day window to hold a formal appeal hearing, and it would be the city manager or designee, and most likely you would get a hearing officer to do that. The person appealing the termination would have a right to counsel or a non-lawyer to assist them, the right to cross-examination, and then a decision that way. And so those are the rights to appeal any type of action that, by making this change, you would grant the fire chief and police chief. The other issue that we talked about is how many other cities do this, and I think you got a copy of passed out. I stayed up late one night and clicked through as many city codes as we could. I think I clicked through 56, almost 75 that I could find. The majority, 56 of them, do have the police chief. And I looked at just police chief and just in doing this. Usually they mimic the fire chief, but the police chief is one that tends to be the focal point on and driving this. And I think Queen Creek was the largest city that has them reporting to council. As you get towards that, the smaller cities, it's more common. And I think a lot of this is legacy too. And so we had in my tally 15 where they report to the council and are served at the pleasure of the council. And then many of them where they are merit employees. And some are, I found 3 that they report directly, serve at the pleasure of the city manager, not asking that we go there. I don't agree with that one. And then, but many do, I think about 5 had the council approval of the hire clause in there. And so we modified the ordinance we brought forward. And with that, I open it up to questions.
Comments? I wasn't here for the last meeting, but I did catch up on homework and listen to the discussion from the previous meeting. And I wish to comment, I was kind of surprised that this structure is the way it is right now. And you're looking at a person who had a long career in emergency management and using incident command system principles. I also was an instructor teaching our responders in Arizona about the use of incident command 100, 200, 300, 400. 2 basic principles there. One is unity of command, meaning that all forces operate under a single command. Second, you guys know this stuff, I don't have to tell you. The other one for the general public to know is a chain of command. I know my place in the organization, and I know who I report to, and who my superior reports to. Why aren't you doing this? Is my rebuttal to some of the discussion I heard the other day. We need to firm this up along with the repairing or inserting of merit protection to our 2 chiefs. So I'm supporting that the 2 chiefs report to the city manager on the good days, and we've had a lot of them, and the work that you all have done together that I've seen in the last 18 months show the city is doing that, our people are working with each other, and everything is hunky-dory. This is great. But what happens when we have that bad day? And that discussion occurred at the last meeting. What's our structure? What's our structure if we have that? We have a recalcitrant chief. We're not the body that makes those decisions per se. We're a body of policy at the highest level in government here locally. We rely on the city manager, we rely on professionals in each of the departments. And they know their chain of command is right to the unity of command to the city manager. In my opinion, I think we should be realigning to that structure. The other departments know that. They report to the city manager, they do it and keep him informed. It's not about power, it's about administration and management on a day-to-day basis. There are certain powers that the police chief has. Over my career, he can invoke Title 26 to evacuate people out of an area for any reason, and in conjunction with the mayor, make that happen at the city manager. Those are emergent situations under statute. But the day-to-day operations, our 2 chiefs need to know that there's a chain of command and a unity of command, and they have merit protection. I'm kind of shocked to hear that there is no merit protection right now for 2 chiefs who are vital to the city and have had many successes in the last 18 months. I'm glad that they work with you. I'm glad that they respect you, Paul, but I also believe we need to up our game in trying to keep them around, that they know structure, that they have structure, and they have protection. And that's on a good day. On a bad day, as I said, there's also structure to take care of the person in question, that there is a disciplinary step of policy that can be called into play. And I think that is the responsibility. I hate to dump on you, but I think that is the responsibility of the highest appointed official that represents the council at all times. Whether or not we want to color that in a little bit with the vote of support or not support, that's something that we can discuss. But I am surprised at that structure, and then reading what you pulled together, Paul, was interesting. I liken it to the history of the West. You see it in movies all the time. The council wants to hire the next sheriff. We used to do that. We're beyond that now. It's time to have a policy in place and a merit protection system in place, so that they do have those protections. They know they're on solid ground any time, in any circumstance. And it protects the city as well. It gives us recourse if we have a bad day with the chief who is questioning on his behavior. We need that. So both sides can benefit from this. We've been very, very lucky that we have such high quality people. It's time to take care of it too, is what I'm saying. Align with the rest of the structure that we have in the city, so that they know the unity of command principles and the chain of command principles there also. It's in writing. Let's help them out and have that kind of protection as well. There are many other ways to approach this. I prefer that the city manager handle all of the administrative side of operations. He's not the expert in police and law enforcement and fire, but he is in charge of the administration of the entire city. And that's who we rely on. So I think that's how we should work on that. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Any other comments?
I was not here last week. I was excused, but I did not listen to the video, so I don't know what you guys said about it. But I have been on council for 14 years, and one of the reasons that we've always been involved in selecting the police chief and fire chief is because they don't just have duties as that, they are communicators in the community who basically have a lot of impact. So they have a face, they have a bullhorn. And we've always felt like we should know who that is. We should know who our options are and have a vote in that. And I don't know that I really feel comfortable not having a vote in that. Now, I don't want them to be coming to us as, you can't serve two masters, right? So they can't be thinking that we're the boss, but he's the boss. And if we don't agree with the city manager, now I'm in trouble and I'm going to burn a bridge. That's not what I want to be involved with. I don't want to be confusing that, but I feel like we should be in an interview process and our opinions should matter.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, Councilman Shipley, right now the situation is that anyone working here as a police chief or fire chief can read the code plainly and understand that while some may respect me and you have given me direction to do that, in the end, if there's a tug of war or if there's a discrepancy between what I am trying to accomplish in order to make the department successful and what you are hearing from that person, they know, and not these chiefs, but the chief in general knows that the bottom line is council is the person that they are ultimately responsible to, not the city manager. I would like to see that if the council has a problem with what the police chief is doing and wants to deal with that, come to me, tell me to say, this is something that we are concerned about, and then I will address that. And that is a proper way, but there could be times where I'm working with administrative structure, hierarchy. You're always working with your employees to maximize their performance and make sure that everyone is fulfilling the vision of the city. And if that gets tricky because of the answering the dual masters. You said it yourself. No one should be working for two different people. And so this change would do that. They would clearly be working for the city manager. Council would have a vote up or down on who I brought forward for that. And I struggled with putting any more detail on the selection process in there. But I do believe we've learned a lot from the selection process. We're very successful with selecting Dale, and things that I plan to put into the administrative policy that will come to council. We're in the process of updating our policies and personnel procedures. A couple things. Well, first, the concept that we've learned, succession planning. We always be looking out for how the next person is going to come up. When you promote from within, you usually don't have that where do they live problem. And so anytime you can home grow your talent, that is good. Now those are management concepts, but administrative policy guidelines, I would say in these high profile hires, there should be a public process. There should be a transparency. We did that before, and I would recommend that we put that into a policy. I think the use of so the best way to make sure we don't have to deal with this on either end is to do good hires. One of the things that helps that is a search firm, even for fire and police. They know the people out there. They can do the background. They talk to candidates. They recruit, and they bring to us a list of people that are viable based on what we need. Two different hires for a police chief or a fire chief could be, one could be, hey, keep things going just like we'd like the way it's going. We want to continue this. Another one could be, hey, we got some changes we need to take place. And so there's a different set of talents for that. But I would say that the other one we learned is do the background checks before we do the interviews and make the final selection. That was something that we got out of order last time, and we rectified it. But that would be very important. The experience and level to match the job. There's experience, and then there's experience level, and you have to make sure that someone's not only has experience as a police officer, but the variety of experience that matches what we need. And so you'll hear the police chief talks about somebody serving 10 years, all being those 10 years of the first year. There's no growth in that. And so you have to be careful about that. But, and then ultimately, avoiding the creation of an island. You want to pick not only a person to be good in the public, somebody's going to be a good leader, but someone that buys into the goals and of the city, and not, which can happen at many different levels, become an island department or an island staff member. They need to be on board with the hierarchy and the structure that council starts with. That is, you give that to me to make sure that everybody's following through that. So we got to make sure that person will fit into that structure that way. Now, I tell you this because this is what the complexity of the hiring process, and that is something that is going to happen with consultants. It's going to happen with staff level. And eventually, though, I agree that it should be, you should have a say in whether that is the right person. Now, whether you want to do the full search and do that is something that I would recommend against. But I think there's a happy medium with where if council is going to approve the vote, I don't want to bring you someone, a city manager, that you're not going to like. I'm going to be very concerned about what it is in a police chief you want to accomplish. So I will take your needs into the mix, along with what I know internally as a department needs and the city needs, and mend all those to try to find a candidate that fits all those bills, that covers all those bases. And so I think this up or down is a fair vote.
If it's not codified to what you're just saying, and another city manager comes in, that city manager may not have what you're saying, may not take into account what we want. may just come up with this
Well,
is the new, this is who we have. So if it's not codified in here to
Yeah.
state that,
Well, and if your city manager's not listening to you, you got a bigger problem.
well, I mean, we've seen it before.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean,
Oh, and that's and so don't ruin the system because you can't manage your city manager. Put the structure in and hold the city manager accountable.
That's why I think it's not codified. For a council to be part of that selection process, council to inform, be informed with you,
Yeah.
with the selection.
Well, I mean,
process, and
there's
final say so.
you.
Council anyways.
I actually want to be in the interview.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I want to be involved.
Yeah.
I don't want you just picking them and saying, this is the guy I picked, and I want to bless them.
Okay.
So I've been on council for, supposed to be 8 years or more, and for the whole 8 years, I've been involved in the selection, the process, and everything. And I appreciate what you're doing too, and I see a lot of the smaller cities that have done this, that I still do want to be involved. You know, not just for, doing the reviews and stuff, but for selecting you, Chief, I would be part of that. And I want to continue that process.
And Mr. Mayor, member of the council, I remind everyone that Dale was not our first pick.
No.
Okay.
But we still, we're part of the works. We had a big thing.
That we exposed.
Oh, you know,
And I'm glad you guys had the opportunity, because that's what we want to move forward to. You guys.
Right.
I did some research and I made calls locally, I made calls different cities across the state. And I really didn't get a feeling which way, one way or the other. They weren't threatened either one way or the other. It makes more sense to be under the direction of, or under the direction of the daily operations of the city manager. But I too feel that we need to be part of the hiring process because we know our community, we know what our vision is, we represent the people, we know what they want to see. And I don't want to see a city manager making that decision, I don't just look at all the degrees that are involved. I look at their personality, I look at their character. Do they fit into our community? Those certificates of the law, I don't want to lessen that any, but they don't mean that to me. They mean more that they're able to mesh with our community and the people that they're represent. They're public servants.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, then how, as a manager, do I try to solve my department problems? How do I get involved in this? Because I was a spectator at the last hire, and I had, and so when you're trying to find someone that fits a need that I know because I am the manager and I know what's going on in the department, I know the strengths and the weaknesses, but I'm left out of the process with no voice. How do I signal to you, other than in a public meeting, that, hey, this guy's nice, but you better look out for this because I don't think it's going to work, or I am left to deal with the choice of the council and make that work.
I'm not saying you don't have that, but you bring multiple choices to us so we could look at it.
Okay.
Not bringing just one that this is what I like, this is what I want. Multiple people that we can also.
Well, in Mr. Mayor, members of council, there will always be the best choice. When I bring forward, there will be the optimal choice, and that is why I like the way that is. And again, this is not a problem right now. It's not pressing. I'm happy to do whatever council wants, but I will tell you in the hiring process that a bad hire as a police officer can be devastating to a community, and we've seen that before, and now we've seen a good hire, and so I would like to some way be represented in that discussion.
Well, I've never been in an interview where a city manager wasn't a part of it.
I did not.
And we usually brought, if we were doing a police chief, we had somebody from the police department there that was part of the interview. If we had, I've never had it be an issue. And you bring your management skills and and help us say, well, I like this guy because, I mean, we're not saying that your opinion doesn't matter. Look, first of all, you don't even live here. That's pretty obvious.
Excuse me,
right?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, excuse me. I am a resident of the city of Globe. I am a registered voter in the city of Globe.
Okay, well, every person in town reminds me that this is not your primary residence. And so that's the perception out there. We have to deal with the people in this community, and we have, I mean, not everybody likes me, and not everybody likes everybody else, but we do have a pretty good idea of what the character of this community is, and what will fly here and what won't. And so if you just pick the guy who you think is best, that's maybe not the guy we would pick. And so I'd like to be in the interview. I want you to be there. I want you to speak up, but I feel like I at least want to be in the interview.
Yeah, I think we can all work together.
I mean, every item that comes up on our agenda, we ask for your input. We ask about how you feel. We ask staff what they feel to get us to where we need to go, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. So if they feel like an interview, it would be just the same, because we would hold open interviews.
No, I mean, the decision was made for this chief hire was made in e-session by a vote of the council members strictly.
We can't vote in e-session.
Well, okay, so I'm trying to remember how did that work?
It can't be a vote.
No, you're right. I'm trying to remember how that, okay, you're correct. It's not a vote, but it was a.
We can give you direction.
What's that?
We can give you direction, but we cannot vote in
e-session. So when you come out for a public vote, and yeah, okay. It's going to be either your pick or my pick.
Right.
I can try to guide you. I can give advice, and you can take it, or you can take it, or you can leave it, which is your. Yeah.
If we have questions, we call you. We'll ask.
Yeah.
Or you'll call us and ask us. We'll have meetings. Yeah. And we'll sit down to discuss something to get all the pertinent information.
Yeah.
This wouldn't be any different.
Yeah, at this point, I don't have a problem taking them out of, under the at will of the council.
Yeah, I don't.
And having them, putting them under, giving them that merit of protection and going under the city manager. But I feel that some component in there that we have some kind of involvement in the hiring process. Not the firing, the hiring process.
So I'm okay, and I'm just running the scenarios through my head, and if we could, I don't know if you wanted to hear from, from the chiefs.
Please.
Yeah. I'd like to hear that.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm excited to hear I was number 2. So this is for the council that was not here. Councilman Leatham, Shipley, and Gonzalez, you guys were not part of the hiring process that I went through before. Part of the problem with the process was exactly what I talked to Councilmember Leatham about, and exactly what I talked to the Mayor about. You individually called me and asked me what I thought about this. The concern that I have with being under council is the council. I'm very blessed right now that I have a great council that I work with, a great city manager that I work with. But realistically, I'm here because of the city manager, not because of the council. I'm here because the city manager adjusted the process to make sure there was a background check done because the person who was picked number 1 failed the background. So from a personal perspective, as far as the hiring goes, I think it's absolutely incredibly important that council is involved with that. But I also think it's incredibly important that the city manager has a process in place that has a headhunter group that goes out and finds the baseline of what you're looking for and provides that level of candidate to you. I will tell you, after 4 years of trying to fix 20 years of bad leadership within the police department and bad hires within the police department, if you don't want to go right back down into that well of disparity, then you need to put a process in place that is codified that last for time, not just till the next city manager or the next councilor comes. The second thing I would tell you is I've had interesting viewpoints from council over the last couple of years about protection and looking out for their employees, because it's incredibly important to this council, at least from what I can tell, that we take care of our employees. So the first thing I would tell you is I think it's absolutely insane that you have two directors out of all the directors you have report to you. I'm no more important, I'm better looking, but I'm no more important than Jerry is. I'm no more important than other directors here, because we're all part of the city. And if you don't want to set us up to make us feel like we're a silo and we kind of operate on our own, then it's incredibly important that we realize we're just part of a wheel that all report to the city manager, who then reports to you all. Secondly, there was a conversation a couple of different times about at-will employees. There has been occasions within this city where somebody gets promoted and they go on at-will, which is standard procedure for us, and then they don't make the probation, then they get terminated. Well, realistically, everybody on this council has said that's unfair. It is unfair. There was no due process for that individual. They should have went back to the original position they were in. But you have two people standing here up here at this podium right now that we could be terminated right now based on a vote and no due process. So in my world, it's difficult because of what I do. We watch the national media. We're watching the heads of chiefs get lopped off across the country. I don't believe that to be the case with this council or this city manager, but all of you, just like myself, have an expiration date. And it wasn't that long ago that we did have members as part of the government that were doing some of those things within this community. So yeah, as an employee, as one of your employees for the city of Globe, I would like to have that feel of protection, that I at least have a course of protection or rebuttal if there is some reason that this body or the city manager chooses to terminate my tenure here at this agency. I've had several discussions with most of you, and I've had several discussions with Paul, and this is what I would tell you. First of all, Globe is a great place to work. I absolutely love it here. And Councilmember Shipley, I don't live here, and I'm not registered to vote here. And I don't have, well, I have a mailbox here, but I don't think I paid it this year, so I'm at a loss. But I'm trying to rectify that. That doesn't make me any less part of this community than the city manager or anybody else in this room. I mean, I tend to see people come to this position and say, you know, I've been here for 3 generations. Well, good. I'm a 4th generation Arizona. I'm totally dedicated to my position here. I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to get my little piece of heaven out in Copper Hills fixed up, but I'm not here yet. That doesn't make me any less your chief. This is one of the best places I think I've ever worked in my entire adult life. And I love this community, and I love the people that I serve day in, day out. But I will tell you, I don't feel protected because of what I do day in and day out. And Mayor, you and I had a discussion concerning this. This is different than the fire chief. God knows why, but everybody loves a fire. Exactly. Apparently. Thank you, Jerry. The problem is some of you sat in the awards banquet that we had the other night, and you got to see firsthand some of the men and women that work for me that receive awards because they were challenged and had to do very difficult, life-threatening events where they risked their life to protect somebody else. Sometimes, as we all know, it doesn't go the way we want it to, or the way it probably should, and it goes down south. And when that happens, it can just take one event, and I could be on the hook to be gone. That's problematic. So I'll leave you with this, and I'll let Gary jump in here. I love my job being here, but I feel, regardless of the direction that this council goes, as far as whether I'm at will for council or I'm a merited employee, I will be protected one way or another, or I can't work here. Just because of I have a family too. The second thing is I think it's incredibly important that the council is part of the hiring process, but before they get to you, I think it's even more important that the city manager has a codified methodology of identifying, one, through interviewing you, what you're looking for, and then two, being able to articulate that to a professional group that will go out and find you an actual police chief, not an out-of-work police sergeant, not an out-of-work police lieutenant, but someone that can step into this and has the municipality background and experience to carry on the things that you want to have happen. And that's going to cost, and that costs money. But it's worth it in the long run. How much money has this city lost in the last 20 years because of bad hires? Or hires that were mediocre that went south on you? Loss of personnel because of bad morale, loss of other things going through it. So it's incredibly important that you have that process in place. But I also think it's as incredibly important that all of you have an opportunity to firsthand interview the candidates that go through. But at the end of the day, they should be working for him. It's like right now, I've been here 4 years. You hold my fate in all your hand, but I've answered to him throughout. He is your vessel for all of us. He's your vessel for Jerry, and Jerry spends way more money than I do. So it's those type of things. So I would hope that we could codify something in place that would incorporate a hiring process that meets all your needs, but then incorporates a management process that meets my needs, Gary's needs, and the city needs, where we're all working kind of on the same rung underneath the city manager. But at the end of the day, I work for all of you, and I'll continue to work for you as long as you'll have me. And if it stays the way it is, it stays the way it is. Questions of me? Thank you. And I'm sorry, I know I made it to number 2.
Very well said, Chief.
Thank you.
Mayor, council members, I won't add a whole lot onto what Dale said. I don't have strong opinions one way or the other related to this. I think Dale hit the nail on the head for his position, for the fire chief position as well. Typically, as Dale mentioned, we don't tend to be as scrutinized as what the police department does. There are, however, activities that we undertake, such as fire code enforcement, those related activities that do tend to occasionally put us in the spotlight with individuals who may not agree with the position that we hold towards codes, towards how we go about protecting the citizens on the front side of things rather than after an incident has occurred. To what Dale mentioned about protection, Councilman Gonzalez mentioned unity of command, and that is one challenge I see. It's functioned very well to date with Paul. We haven't had really any struggles with that. However, when it comes right down to it, on the fire side of things, at least if you look at it, with municipalities and police chiefs, your police chiefs tend to be parts of municipalities. On the fire side of things, you see a lot of other government entities that govern fire departments, mainly in fire districts. So not only municipalities but fire districts. What Dale mentioned about protection related to the position and how you go about disciplining, how you go about terminating. The one thing you do see in the fire department at the chief level, more so in districts, but also within municipalities, is they are afforded some protections. If they are considered an at-will of a governing body of some form, they do have some protections that are codified related to their position. So if their position is for some reason terminated outside of a for cause termination, then they're afforded some type of protection in contracted form that the entity would then have to abide by. So when it comes right down to it, really that's the one of the main challenges I see as it currently exists, while we are at will, we're not necessarily afforded those protections. Whereas as a city manager, they may be afforded those protections as, as another employee that's a merit. They have the opportunity to appeal. They have the opportunity to seek some form of redress, to address the disciplinary issue, to address what they're being brought forth for some form of action related to their employment. They have a way to address that, and a way to seek another opinion or another view on those actions that are being taken. Again, what we've been doing to date, it has functioned, but it's not perfect. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer here, but I do believe some changes need to be made in one form or another to address protecting the individuals that you've selected to make sure that your public safety entities function the way they're supposed to function and can continue to do so in the future.
Thank you, Gary.
So, one of the reasons that I think that they should work under the city manager once they're selected is, what if I got pulled over and should be getting a citation or a ticket or arrested or whatever that is? I shouldn't be in a position where I can retaliate against the police chief because of what happened to me. And that's one of the reasons I feel like they really need to be under the city manager and have those protections, but I don't want those two positions to be selected without.
Yeah. Right. And I think I got some language that you will like. So, and we'll have to fit this in, but after a public process, if we want that, and advice of the manager, council will select. So it just puts in code that I will give you my opinion, and then you can formally, and that way I know you would all come to me and ask, but we're talking, this is the difficulty of this. We're talking, probably none of us, very few of us will be around when all this is put to use again, but that would just codify that I have a formal opinion that you can take or not take, but will be included. And I'm happy with that. And then it would be a council vote of however many. Now, the confusion is that we negotiated, we entered negotiations, and then we entered negotiations again with a different candidate. And then finally, after negotiations, a final candidate was brought forward, and that was the up or down vote. And so that's the confusion that we had between what we were talking about. But what is council's opinion of that with just those words, after a public process and after advice of the manager?
I think it needs some more clarification. I think that we need to table this, work it out some more, and bring it back to us so we can actually see what you're writing. We have a lot of red marked things on our agenda.
And that's fine.
We have the coding that you're saying.
We're missing 2 members.
Yeah, we're missing 2
so,
members.
Yeah, this is not like the last item at the end of the year.
It's not a pressing item.
No.
But I do think that they should be afforded the merit base. They should be afforded, even if this council decides not to give merit base, but a boilerplate or something into their contracts.
Yeah.
To that effect, I do believe that their positions need to be.
Well, and Mr. Mayor, members of council, Councilman Lee.
To what is there, we can't retaliate against them. They need to feel secure in their position. So then it would be selection by the council after blah blah blah, and then reporting to the city manager, and then termination through the merit process. And you'd have no role in the termination. Yeah, we can put that together, and you're right. There's no rush. And
it's just like writing their reviews. We don't know what they
yeah.
do. No. And we used to do that.
Yeah, I know.
It's just like, why am I writing Dale?
And to be truthful, their reviews are coming up, and this is why the only reason I'm trying to get this hashed out at this very moment. But
See, to me, that makes sense. It's
Yeah.
You need to do that. I
Yeah.
told you that back then.
Yeah.
You know,
So
So I'd make a
Yeah.
motion that, to table this and move it to the next meeting with,
with additional language as directed.
additional language as
The wording completely. Do we have a second on that? A motion and a second for item 8A. Any further discussion? I just want to make a comment that thank you both chiefs for your comments, and I think that's exactly what we want to try and say. I think Chief Walter said it right. We do care about our employees. We want that protection for them. I think that in your writing it up, you need to make sure that, and I think Chief Walter said about getting a group where you bring us a group of candidates to us.
Yeah.
We don't go through the whole process.
No.
You bring it to us, your recommendations,
And
we're able to be part of the process.
And Mr. Mayor, members of council, and I appreciate that, because there are, I mean, when you're interviewing for any position, one of the first things we do when we're doing review is, okay, can we see that person even accomplishing that job? Have they met the threshold? Then once they met the threshold, now it's between the comparable or competent candidates, and that would be the group that we would bring forward to council. We would have a public process guaranteed by the code. You would have a formal opinion, or formal some type of information from the manager as to what they're looking for, and then you go and make that decision.
Yeah.
And I think that would meet the needs of everyone.
Yeah.
Okay. And then on the back end, it'd just be like a regular employee. Okay. Okay. Well, thank you for the last item of the year.
Yeah.
It's Jerry's so upset that he's not. We should just like bring one back.
He had enough.
Yeah. So
we'll call for that vote on table in this item for final wording on it.
Yes.
So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Or nay, and abstain. Thank you, Chief. Any late agenda items?
None.
Second call to the public, do we have anybody?
Not text, Mr. Mayor.
Nope, nothing.
Scheduling the meetings,
Just the cancellation of the meeting on the 28th. Yeah.
next meeting will be in 2023.
The 10th.
The 10th.
Yep. See you next year.
Consideration of any future agenda items? Call for motion for adjournment. Motion second to adjourn, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Adjourn. Thank you for attending. Be careful of the snow out there.